A Piece One-Liner Idea Guide 2. Chapter 1. A Piece One-Liner Guide. Peaceful Ideas 7. Please don't wait until the doctors tell you that you are going to have a baby to begin to take care of it. It is already there. Whatever you are, whatever you do, your baby will get it. Anything you eat, any worries that are on your mind will be for him or her. Can you tell me that you cannot smile? Think of the baby and smile for him, for her, for the future generations. Please don't tell me that a smile and your sorrow just don't go together. It's your sorrow, but what about your baby? It's not his sorrow, it's not her sorrow. THNH, being peace. Popular culture is a place where pity is called compassion, flattery is called love, propaganda is called knowledge, tension is called peace, gossip is called news, and auto-tune is called singing. Chris Jamie. Positive thoughts, joy, happiness, fulfillment, achievement, worthiness, have positive results, enthusiasm, calm, well-being, ease, energy, love. Negative thoughts, judgment, unworthiness, mistrust, resentment, fear, produce negative results, tension, anxiety, alienation, anger, fatigue. Peter McWilliams. Prayer is vastly superior to worry. With worry, we are helpless, with prayer, we are interceding. When I hear sad news, I try to say a prayer for the victims. When I am troubled, I will say a prayer that asks for relief for myself and for all those who suffer as I do. When I am concerned about my relatives or friends, I say a short prayer to myself. May they be happy and free of suffering. Book, Seeking Peace, Chronicles of the Worst Buddhist in the World. Mary Piffer. Price of peace could only be valued by people who had suffered loss in the war. Toba Beta, my ancestor was an ancient astronaut. Regimes planted by bayonets do not take root. Our military strength is a prerequisite to peace, but let it be clear we maintain this strength in the hope it will never be used, for the ultimate determinant in the struggle that's now going on in the world will not be bombs and rockets but a test of wills and ideas, a trial of spiritual resolve, the values we hold, the beliefs we cherish, the ideals to which we are dedicated. Ronald Reagan, The Quest for Peace, The Cause of Freedom. Remember your humanity and forget the rest. Bertrand Russell. Resolution, like responsibility, is a product of ownership, and kids can't resolve a conflict until they figure out how they contributed to it. Richard Eyre, The Entitlement Trap, How to Rescue Your Child with a New Family System of Choosing, Earning, and Ownership. Rest and Be Thankful. William Wordsworth. Restlessness and impatience change nothing except our peace and joy. Peace does not dwell in outward things, but in the heart prepared to wait trustfully and quietly on Him who has all things safely in His hands. Elizabeth Elliot. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Martin Luther King Jr. Seek peace and pursue it. Proverbs 34:14. Sex could be a blissful communion. But it could also be a weapon, and its absence, sometimes, was required for the establishment of peace. Anne Broshares, Girls in Pants, The Third Summer of the Sisterhood. Shall I tell you why young men love war? In peace, there are 100 questions with 1,000 answers. In war, there is only one question with one right answer. Going to war makes you a man. It is emotionally exciting and morally restful. Mary Doria Russell, A Thread of Grace. She had storms all her life, but she died peacefully. Janet Flanner, Paris Was Yesterday, 1925–1939. She should avoid oppressing her men, since this is the surest way to incur their hatred. She can best cultivate their loyalty by speaking boldly and consistently to them, according to her counsel, not giving one reason today and another tomorrow. Speaking words of good courage to her men-at-arms as well as to her other retainers, she will urge them to loyalty and their best efforts. Christine de Pizan, The Treasure of the City of Ladies. She wished she could visit Miriam's grave, to sit with her a while, leave a flower or two. But she sees now that it doesn't matter. Miriam is never very far. Miriam is in her own heart, where she shines with the bursting radiance of 1,000 suns. Khaled Hosseini, 1,000 splendid suns. Sit down before fact as a little child, be prepared to give up every preconceived notion, follow humbly wherever and to whatever abysses nature leads, or you shall learn nothing. I have only begun to learn content and peace of mind since I have resolved at all risks to do this. Thomas Henry Huxley, Life and Letters of Thomas Henry Huxley. Some, often without knowing it, suffered from being deprived of the company of friends and from their inability to get in touch with them through the usual channels of friendship, letters, trains, and boats. Others, fewer these, tarot may have been one of them, had desired reunion with something they couldn't have defined, but which seemed to them the only desirable thing on earth. For want of a better name, they sometimes called it peace. Albert Camus. Some people have just rented your body to live in it for some time and depart. Others consider you as a permanent residence to dwell in forever. Whichever, you must remember to accommodate all those who want to be accommodated. Be each other's keeper. Israel more I ever. Some of us look for the way in opium and some in God, some of us in whiskey and some in love. It is all the same way and it leads no whither. W. Somerset Maugham, 1874–1965, The Painted Veil, 1925. Some people are ocean personalities. In their inner depths they are not defeated by what happens to them. The towering waves of circumstances cannot reach us when we go deep within to seek the peace that passes all understanding. While the surface of life is in turmoil we can find an inner calmness to see us through. Wilford A. Peterson. You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. Indira Gandhi. Like a cathedral, peace must be constructed patiently and with unshakable faith. Pope John Paul II. I take it that what all people are really after is some form of, perhaps only some formula of, peace. James Conrad. When we're helping other people, we're nourishing our soul. Depression or unhappiness means we've got the wrong goal. We have forgotten that peace of mind is our only goal. By concentrating on helping another person, we renew contact with our soul and with God. We can feel peaceful again. Peace of mind has nothing to do with the external world, it has only to do with our connection with God. Love really is the answer. We're here only to teach love. When we're doing that, our souls are singing and dancing. When we remind ourselves that we are spiritual beings, that life and love are the flame eternal, that's when our soul is nourished. Gerald Jampolsky. I do not want the peace which passeth understanding, I want the understanding which bringeth peace. Helen Keller. Peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process, gradually changing opinions, slowly eroding old barriers, quietly building new structures. And however undramatic the pursuit of peace, the pursuit must go on. John F. Kennedy. The world will never have lasting peace so long as we reserve for war the finest human qualities. Peace, no less than war, requires idealism and self-sacrifice and a righteous and dynamic faith. John Foster Dulles. Peace does not dwell in outward things, but within the soul, we may preserve it in the midst of the bitterest pain, if our will remains firm and submissive. Peace in this life springs from acquiescence to, not in an exemption from, suffering. François de Fenelon. They are the happiest, be they kings or peasants, who find peace in their homes. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. The important thing to remember is that peace comes from within your own heart and mind, not from some outside source, and when you refuse to be disturbed by things about you, life will flood your being with dynamic energy. Anonymous. Work is not always required of a person. There is such a thing as sacred idleness, the cultivation of which is now fearfully neglected. George MacDonald. Over all the mountain tops is peace. In all treetops you perceive scarcely a breath The little birds in the forest are silent. Wait then, soon. You, too, will have peace. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Someday, after mastering the winds, the waves, the tides and gravity, we shall harness for God the energies of love, and then, for a second time in the history of the world, man will have discovered fire. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Something wonderful begins to happen with the simple realization that life, like an automobile, is driven from the inside out, not the other way around. As you focus more on becoming more peaceful with where you are, rather than focusing on where you would rather be, you begin to find peace right now, in the present. Then, as you move around, try new things and meet new people, you carry that sense of inner peace with you. It's absolutely true that, wherever you go, there you are. Richard Carlson, don't sweat the small stuff. And it's all small stuff. Sometime they'll give a war and nobody will come. Carl Sandburg. Sometimes you have to pick the gun up to put the gun down. Malcolm X. Sometimes a strikeout means that the slugger's girlfriend just ran off with the UPS driver. Sometimes a muffed ground ball means that the shortstop's baby daughter has a pain in her head that won't go away. And handicapping is for amateur golfers, not ball players. Pitchers don't ease off on the cleanup hitter because of the lumps just discovered in his wife's breast. Baseball is not life. It is a fiction, a metaphor. And a ball player is a man who agrees to uphold that metaphor as though lives were at stake. Perhaps they are. I cherish a theory I once heard propounded by G.Q. Durham that professional baseball is inherently anti-war. The most overlooked cause of war, his theory runs, is that it's so damned interesting. It takes hard effort, skill, love, and a little luck to make times of peace consistently interesting. About all it takes to make war interesting is a life. The appeal of trying to kill others without being killed yourself, according to Gale, is that it brings suspense, terror, honor, disgrace, rage, tragedy, treachery, and occasionally even heroism within range of guys who, in times of peace, might lead lives of unmitigated blandness. But baseball, he says, is one activity that is able to generate suspense and excitement on a national scale, just like war. And baseball can only be played in peace. Hence G.Q.'s thesis that pro ball players, little as some of them may want to hear it, are basically just a bunch of unusually well-coordinated guys working hard and artfully to prevent wars, by making peace more interesting. David James Duncan. Souls reconstructed with faith transform agony into peace. Aubergani, The River of Winged Dreams. Stop the mindless wishing that things would be different. Rather than wasting time and emotional and spiritual energy in explaining why we don't have what we want, we can start to pursue other ways to get it. Greg Anderson. Sweet are the thoughts that savor of content, the quiet mind is richer than a crown. Robert Greene. Tension, in the long run, is a more dangerous force than any feud known to man. Chris Jamie. Thankfulness creates gratitude, which generates contentment that causes peace. Todd Stalker. Thanks also to the recruitment adverts. For showing me soldiers whizzing around on skis. And for sending sergeants to our school. To tell us of the laughs, the great food, the pay. The camaraderie. That deep silence has a melody of its own, a sweetness unknown amid the harsh discords of the world's sounds. Paul Brunton, The Notebooks of Paul Brunton. That doctrine of peace at any price has done more mischief than any I can well recall that have been afloat in this country. It has occasioned more wars than any of the most ruthless conquerors. It has disturbed and nearly destroyed that political equilibrium so necessary to the liberties and the welfare of the world. Benjamin Disraeli. That peace, safety, and concord may be the portion of our native land and be long enjoyed by our fellow citizens, is the most ardent wish of my heart, and if I can be instrumental in procuring or preserving them, I shall think I have not lived in vain. Thomas Jefferson, Letter to Benjamin Waring and Others, March 23, 1801. That they may have a little peace, even the best dogs are compelled to snarl occasionally. William Feather. That was when it was all made painfully clear to me. When you are a child, there is joy. There is laughter. And most of all, there is trust. Trust in your fellows. When you are an adult, then comes suspicion, hatred, and fear. If children ran the world, it would be a place of eternal bliss and cheer. Adults run the world, and there is war and enmity and destruction unending. Adults who take charge of things muck them up and then produce a new generation of children and say, the children are the hope of the future. And they are right. Children are the hope of the future. But adults are the damnation of the present, and children become adults as surely as adults become worm food. Adults are the death of hope. Peter David, Tiger Heart. The peace of heaven is theirs that lift their swords, in such a just and charitable war. William Shakespeare. The only alternative to coexistence is co-destruction. Jawaharlal Nehru. The way to preserve the peace of the Church is to preserve its purity. Matthew Henry. The name of peace is sweet and the thing itself is beneficial, but there is a great difference between peace and servitude. Peace is freedom and tranquility, servitude is the worst of all evils, to be resisted not only by war, but even by death. Cicero. The more we genuinely care about others, the greater our own happiness and inner peace. Alan Locos, Pocket Peace, Effective Practices for Enlightened Living. The triumph of persuasion over force is the sign of a civilized society. Mark Skousen. The search for meaning is really the search for the lost chord. When the lost chord is discovered by humankind, the discord in the world will be healed and the symphony of the universe will come into complete harmony with itself. John O'Donohue, Anam Cara, A Book of Celtic Wisdom. The greatest honor history can bestow is that of peacemaker. Richard Nixon. The man who has gotten everything he wants is all in favor of peace and order. Jawaharlal Nehru. The formula of life is simple. It is the formula of giving. Giving courage, attention, peace, love, and comfort to yourself and the society. Amit Ray, Nonviolence, the Transforming Power. The pursuit of peace resembles the building of a great cathedral. It is the work of a generation. In concept it requires a master architect, in execution, the labors of many. Hubert Humphrey. The true value of a human being can be found in the degree to which he has attained liberation from the self. Albert Einstein. The miracle of life is given by one greater than ourselves, but once given, each life is ours to nurture and preserve, to foster, not only for today's world but for a better one to come. There is no purpose more noble than for us to sustain and celebrate life in a turbulent world, and that is what we must do now. We have no higher duty, no greater cause as humans. Life and the preservation of freedom to live it in dignity is what we are on this earth to do. Everything we work to achieve must seek that end, so that someday our prime ministers, our premiers, our presidents, and our general secretaries will talk not of war and peace, but only of peace. Ronald Reagan. The quest for peace, the cause of freedom. The same hot lightning that burns your blood with passion cools your fears with peace. Aubergine, The River of Winged Dreams. The first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes within the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all its powers, and when they realize at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit and that its center is really everywhere, it is within each of us. Nicholas Black Elk. The best way to end a war is not to begin it. The wise man. If he would live at peace with others, he will bear and forbear. Samuel Smiles. The law of evolution is that the strongest survives. Yes, and the strongest, in the existence of any social species, are those who are most social. In human terms, most ethical. There is no strength to be gained from hurting one another. Only weakness. Ursula K. Le Guin. The person who hurt you, who raped you or killed your family is also here. If you are still angry at that person, if you haven't been able to forgive, you are chained to him. Everyone could feel the emotional truth of that. When someone offends you and you haven't let go, every time you see him, you grow breathless or your heart skips a beat. If the trauma was really severe, you dream of revenge. Above you, is the mountain of peace and prosperity where we all want to go. But when you try to climb that hill, the person you haven't forgiven weighs you down. It's a personal choice whether or not to let go. No one can tell you how long to mourn a death or rage over a rape. But you can't move forward until you break that chain. Lamak Bowie, mighty be our powers, how sisterhood, prayer, and sex changed a nation at war. The essential act of war is destruction, not necessarily of human lives, but of the products of human labor. War is a way of shattering to pieces, or pouring into the stratosphere, or sinking in the depths of the sea, materials which might otherwise be used to make the masses too comfortable and hence, in the long run, too intelligent. George Orwell, 1984. The charm of variety there was not, nor the excitement of incident, but I liked peace so well and sought stimulus so little, that when the latter came I almost felt it a disturbance and rather still wished it had held aloof. Charlotte Bronte, Villette. The downfall of the attempts of governments and leaders to unite mankind is found in these and the wrong message that we should see everyone as the same. This is the root of the failure of harmony. Because the truth is, we should not all see everyone as the same. We are not the same. We are made of different colors and we have different cultures. We are all different. But the key to this door is to look at these differences, respect these differences, learn from and about these differences and grow in and with these differences. We are all different. We are not the same. But that's beautiful. And that's okay. In the quest for unity and peace, we cannot blind ourselves and expect to be all the same. Because in this, we all have an underlying belief that everyone should be the same as us at some point. We are not on a journey to become the same or to be the same. But we are on a journey to see that in all of our differences, that is what makes us beautiful as a human race, and if we are ever to grow, we ought to learn and always learn some more. See Joy Bell C. The truth is that judgment and fear will never stop, but they don't actually do anything. Julian Smith, The Flinch. The weather is nature's disruptor of human plans and busybodies. Of all the things on earth, nature's disruption is what we know we can depend on, as it is essentially uncontrolled by men. Chris Jamie. The quality of life in our world does not depend on the conflicts that arise, but on our response to them. Widad Akrai. The pacifist is as surely a traitor to his country and to humanity as is the most brutal wrongdoer. Theodore Roosevelt. The pursuit of peace and progress cannot end in a few years in either victory or defeat. The pursuit of peace and progress, with its trials and its errors, its successes and its setbacks, can never be relaxed and never abandoned. Dag Hammarskjöld. The world is quiet here. Lemonius Nicket. The path of peace is not a passive journey. It takes incredible strength not to open a can of hoop ass, justifiably, when one's button is pushed. T. F. Hodge, From Within I Rise, Spiritual Triumph Over Death and Conscious Encounters with the Divine Presence. The most detestable wickedness, the most horrid cruelties and the greatest miseries, that have afflicted the human race have had their origin in this thing called revelation, or revealed religion. It has been the most dishonorable belief against the character of the divinity, the most destructive to morality and the peace and happiness of man, that ever was propagated since man began to exist. It is better, far better, that we admitted, if it were possible, 1,000 devils to roam at large and to preach publicly the doctrine of devils, if there were any such, than that we permitted one such impostor and monster as Moses, Joshua, Samuel and the Bible prophets, to come with the pretended word of God in his mouth and have credit among us. Whence arose all the horrid assassinations of whole nations of men, women, and infants, with which the Bible is filled, and the bloody persecutions and tortures unto death and religious wars, that since that time have laid Europe in blood and ashes, whence arose they, but from this impious thing called revealed religion and this monstrous belief that God has spoken to man. The lies of the Bible have been the cause of the one and the lies of the Testament of the other. Thomas Paine, The Age of Reason. The only two important things in life are real love and being at peace with yourself. Jonathan Carroll, Sleeping in Flame. The United States is not a nation to which peace is a necessity. Grover Cleveland. The day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace. Mahatma Gandhi. The words we choose to use when we communicate with each other, carry vibrations. The word war carries a whole different vibration than the word peace. The words we use are showing how we think and how we feel. The careful selection of words helps to elevate our consciousness and resonate in higher frequencies. Grigoris Diudis. The day I understood everything was the day I stopped trying to figure everything out. The day I knew peace was the day I let everything go. The greatest threat to peace is the barrage of rightist propaganda portraying war as decent, honorable, and patriotic. Jeanette Rankin. The peacemakers shall be called the children of God. The ink of the scholar is more holy than the blood of the martyr. Anonymous, the Quran. The war drum throbbed no longer and the battle flags were furled in the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World. Lord Alfred Tennyson. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb and the leopard shall lie down with the kid. Bible. The greatest threat to peace is the barrage of rightist propaganda portraying war as decent, honorable, and patriotic. Jeanette Rankin. The power which resides in man is new in nature and none but he knows what that is which he can do, nor does he until he has tried. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The most part of all princes have more delight in warlike manners and feats of chivalry than in the good feats of peace. Thomas More. The practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. Marianne Williamson. The words I love you kill and resurrect millions, in less than a second. Auberjani, Elemental, the power of illuminated love. Peaceful Ideas 8. The topic of compassion is not at all religious business, it is important to know it is human business, it is a question of human survival. Dalai Lama 14. The average pencil is 7 inches long, with just a half-inch eraser in case you thought optimism was dead. Robert Brault. The present moment is filled with joy and happiness. If you are attentive, you will see it. Thich Nhat Peace is every step, the path of mindfulness in everyday life. The line between him and the enemy had simultaneously blurred and solidified. Somehow, while perhaps it shouldn't have, this thought provided a strange sense of peace. Christina McMorris, Bridge of Scarlet Leaves. The quickest way to change your attitude toward pain is to accept the fact that everything that happens to us has been designed for our spiritual growth. M. Scott Peck. The God of victory is said to be one-handed, but peace gives victory to both sides. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The greatest thrill is not to kill but to let live. James Oliver Cawood, the Grizzly King. The only way to bring peace to the earth is to learn to make our own life peaceful. The Buddha. The more humble and obedient to God a man is, the more wise and at peace he will be in all that he does. Thomas A. Kempis, The Inner Life. The place to improve the world is first in one's own heart and head and hands. Robert Pirsig. The more we sweat in peace the less we bleed in war. Vijayalakshmi Pandit. The dog is the god of frolic. Henry Ward Beecher. The greatest pleasure of a dog is that you may make a fool of yourself with him and not only will he not scold you, but he will make a fool of himself, too. Samuel Butler. The most disadvantageous peace is better than the most just war. Desiderius Erasmus, Attica. The first and fundamental law of nature, which is, to seek peace and follow it. Thomas Hobbes. The perfect way is only difficult for those who pick and choose, do not like, do not dislike, all will then be clear. Seng Tizan. The peace of the man who has forsworn the use of the bullet seems to me not quite peace, but a canting impotence. Ralph Waldo Emerson. The greenest of pastures are right here on earth. Jennifer Donnelly, Revolution. The mind can go in 1,000 directions, but on this beautiful path, I walk in peace. With each step, the wind blows. With each step, a flower blooms. Thich Nhat. The world had been divided into two parts that sought to annihilate each other because they both desired the same thing, namely the liberation of the oppressed, the elimination of violence and the establishment of permanent peace. Hermann Hesse, the fairy tales of Hermann Hesse. The least known among the virtues and also the most misunderstood is the virtue of humility. Yet, it is the very groundwork of Christianity. Humility is a grace of the soul that cannot be expressed in words and is only known by experience. It is an unspeakable treasure of God and only can be called the gift of God. Learn, he said, not from angels, not from men, not from books, but learn from my presence, light and action within you, that I am meek and humble of heart and you shall find rest to your souls. William Bernard Olathorn. The opposite of peace is war, but so are agitation, anxiety, and violence. Edward J. Lavin. Only those to whom God is present in everything and who employ their reason in the highest degree and have true enjoyment in it know anything of true peace and have a real kingdom of heaven. Meister Eckhart. Lord, Thou madest us for Thyself and we can find no rest till we find rest in Thee. St. Augustine. Whatever peace I know rests in the natural world, in feeling myself a part of it, even in a small way. May Sarton. Matthew Arnold counted as the greatest single line in all poetry that saying of Dante's poetic insight in Thy will is our peace. Philemon F. Sturges. Peace is not something you fight for with bombs and missiles that kill. Nor can it be won in a battle of words. One fashions by scheming and skill. For those who are greedy and warlike, whose avarice for power cannot cease, can never contribute in helping to bring this world nearer to peace. For in seeking peace for all people, there is only one place to begin, and that is in each home and heart. For the fortress of peace is within. Helen Steiner Rice. The institutions of human society treat us as parts of a machine. They assign us ranks and place considerable pressure upon us to fulfill defined roles. We need something to help us restore our lost and distorted humanity. Each of us has feelings that have been suppressed and have built up inside. There is a voiceless cry resting in the depths of our souls, waiting for expression. Art gives the soul's feelings voice and form. Daisaku Ikeda. Then, already, it had brought to his mind the silence brooding over beds in which he had let men die. There as here it was the same solemn pause, the lull that follows battle, it was the silence of defeat. But the silence now enveloping his dead friend, so dense, so much akin to the nocturnal silence of the streets and of the town set free at last, made Rear cruelly aware that this defeat was final, the last disastrous battle that ends a war and makes peace itself an ill beyond all remedy. The doctor could not tell if Taro had found peace, now that all was over, but for himself he had a feeling that no peace was possible to him henceforth, any more than there can an armistice for a mother bereaved of a son or for a man who buries his friend. Albert Camus. There is no such thing as inner peace, there is only nervousness and death. Fran Lebowitz. There is never a moment when God is not in control. Relax. He's got you covered. Mandy Hale, The Single Woman, Life, Love and a Dash of Sass. There is a tonic strength, in the hour of sorrow and affliction, in escaping from the world and society and getting back to the simple duties and interests we have slighted and forgotten. Our world grows smaller, but it grows dearer and greater. Simple things have a new charm for us and we suddenly realize that we have been renouncing all that is greatest and best, in our pursuit of some phantom. William George Jordan. There is a price which is too great to pay for peace and that price can be put in one word. One cannot pay the price of self-respect. Woodrow Wilson. There are no makers of peace because the making of peace is at least as costly as the making of war at least as exigent. Daniel Berrigan. There had to be something wrong with my life. I should have been born a Yugoslavian shepherd who looked up at the Big Dipper every night. Haruki Murakami, Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. There never was a good war or a bad peace. Benjamin Franklin. There are two means of refuge from the miseries of life, music and cats. Albert Schweitzer. There lies before us, if we choose, continual progress in happiness, knowledge, and wisdom. Shall we instead choose death, because we cannot forget our quarrels? I appeal as a human being to human beings, remember your humanity and forget the rest. Bertrand Russell. There are two influences ever present in the world. One is constructive and elevating and comes from our Heavenly Father, the other is destructive and debasing and comes from Lucifer. We have our agency and make our own choice in life subject to these unseen powers. There is a division line well defined that separates the Lord's territory from Lucifer's. If we live on the Lord's side of the line, Lucifer cannot come there to influence us, but if we cross the line into his territory, we are in his power. By keeping the commandments of the Lord, we are safe on his side of the line, but if we disobey his teachings, we voluntarily cross into the zone of temptation and invite the destruction that is ever present there. Knowing this, how anxious we should always be to live on the Lord's side of the line. George Albert Smith. There is no moral difference between a stealth bomber and a suicide bomber. They both kill innocent people for political reasons. Tony Benn. There is peace more destructive of the manhood of living man than war is destructive of his material body. Douglas William Gerald. There is no peace, I'm sorry to say. We find it. We lose it. We find it again. We lose it again. Kurt Vonnegut, slapstick or lonesome no more. There is no psychiatrist in the world like a puppy licking your face. Bern Williams. There is nothing that war has ever achieved that we could not better achieve without it. Havelock Ellis. There is no way to peace, there is only peace. Mahatma Gandhi. There can never be peace between nations until there is first known that true peace which is within the souls of men. Nicholas Black Elk. There is very little difference in people, but that little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude. The big difference is whether it is positive or negative. W. Clement Stone. There are more quarrels smothered by just shutting your mouth and holding it shut, than by all the wisdom in the world. Henry Ward Beecher. There are two big forces at work, external and internal. We have very little control over external forces such as tornadoes, earthquakes, floods, disasters, illness and pain. What really matters is the internal force. How do I respond to those disasters? Over that I have complete control. Leo Buscaglia. There's a man who is my brother. I just don't know his name. But I know his home and family. Because I know we feel the same. And it hurts me when he's hungry. Or when his children cry. I too am a father. That little one is mine. It's about time we begin it. To turn the world around. It's about time we start to make it. The dream we've always known. It's about time we start to live it. The family of man. It's about time. It's about changes. And it's about time. It's about you and me together. And it's about time. John Denver. There's a non-existent peace in the uncertain quietness. Fernando Pessoa, Poems of Fernando Pessoa. There's no time for hatred, only questions. Where is love? Where is happiness? What is life? Where is peace? Jeff Buckley. There's a silent voice in the wilderness that we hear only when no one else is around. When you go far, far beyond, out across the Netherlands of the known, the din of human static slowly fades away, over and out. Rob Schultheis, Fool's Gold, Lives, Loves and Misadventures in the Four Corners Country. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. Bible. They will not let you have peace, they don't want you to have anything they don't have themselves. Margaret Atwood, Surfacing. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. Isaiah 2:4. They have plundered the world, stripping naked the land in their hunger, they are driven by greed, if their enemy be rich, by ambition, if poor. They ravage, they slaughter, they seize by false pretenses, and all of this they hail as the construction of empire. And when in their wake nothing remains but a desert, they call that peace. Tacitus, the Agricola, and the Germania. They sicken of the calm who know the storm. Dorothy Parker. They make a wilderness and call it peace. Tacitus. Think not I came to send peace on the earth, I came not to send peace but a sword. Think not forever of yourselves, O chiefs, nor of your own generation. Think of continuing generations of our families, think of our grandchildren and of those yet unborn, whose faces are coming from beneath the ground. T. S. Eliot. This idea of weapons of mass extermination's utterly horrible and is something which no one with one spark of humanity can tolerate. I will not pretend to obey a government which is organizing a mass massacre of mankind. Bertrand Russell. This is my country, that is your country, these are the conceptions of narrow souls. To the liberal-minded the whole world is a family. Virchand Gandhi. This is the way of peace, overcome evil with good, falsehood with truth and hatred with love. Peace Pilgrim. This world's anguish is no different from the love we insist on holding back. This world's anguish is no different from the love we insist on holding back. Aubergani, Elemental, the power of illuminated love. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. John F. Kennedy. Those who believe in their hearts become calm and contented with the remembrance of Allah. Know that it is the remembrance of Allah alone that brings rest to the hearts. The Quran Surah Arr Ad. 28. Anonymous. Those who live as though God sets the rules are not going by their own rules. That is the self-sacrifice, or selflessness, that peace more often than not requires. Those who insist on going by their own rules cannot make that sacrifice. They are the steady adherents of global conflict because they are forever fighting both themselves and others to do whatever they think that they want to do. Chris Jamie. Those who attempt to conquer hatred by hatred are like warriors who take weapons to overcome others who bear arms. This does not end hatred, but gives it room to grow. But, ancient wisdom has advocated a different timeless strategy to overcome hatred. This eternal wisdom is to meet hatred with non-hatred. The method of trying to conquer hatred through hatred never succeeds in overcoming hatred. But, the method of overcoming hatred through non-hatred is eternally effective. That is why that method is described as eternal wisdom. Gautama Buddha. Those who love thy law have great peace and nothing causes them to stumble. Psalms 119:165. Though force can protect in emergency, only justice, fairness, consideration, and cooperation can finally lead men to the dawn of eternal peace. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Thus Gautama Buddha walked toward the town to gather alms, and the two Samamas recognized him solely by the perfection of his repose, by the calmness of his figure, in which there was no trace of seeking, desiring, imitating, or striving, only light and peace. Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. Time spent with cats is never wasted. Colette. To be prepared for war is one of the most effective means of preserving peace. George Washington. To understand the immeasurable, the mind must be extraordinarily quiet, still. Jiddu Krishnamurti. To every disadvantage there is a corresponding advantage. W. Clement Stone. To look upon its grass-grown yard, where the sunbeams seem to sleep so quietly, one would think that there at least the dead might rest in peace. Washington Irving, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. To those peoples in the huts and villages of half the globe struggling to break the bonds of mass misery, we pledge our best efforts to help them help themselves, for whatever period is required, not because the communists may be doing it, not because we seek their votes, but because it is right. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. John F. Kennedy. To sense the peace of extinguished passion. Happiness in not knowing the ultimate knowledge. Dejan Stojanovic, The Sign, and its Children. To be born to create, to love, to win at games is to be born to live in time of peace. But war teaches us to lose everything and become what we were not. It all becomes a question of style. Albert Camus, Notebooks 1935–1942. To look life in the face, always, to look life in the face and to know it for what it is. At last, to love it for what it is and then, to put it away. Virginia Woolf. To many men, the miasma of peace seems more suffocating than the bracing air of war. George Steiner. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace. George Washington. We are always paid for our suspicion by finding what we suspect. Henry David Thoreau. To allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns. To surrender to too many demands. To commit oneself to too many projects. To want to help everyone with everything is to succumb to violence. Thomas Merton. To die. So young to die. No, no, not I. I love the warm sunny skies. Light, song, shining eyes. I want no war, no battle cry. No, no, not I. Hannah Sench. To enjoy good health, to bring true happiness to one's family, to bring peace to all, one must first discipline and control one's own mind. If a man can control his mind, he can find the way to enlightenment, and all wisdom and virtue will naturally come to him. Buddha. To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace. George Washington. Today, let's give thanks for life. For life itself. For simply being born. Daphne Rose Kingma. Too bad people can't always be playing music, maybe then there wouldn't be any more wars. Margot Benariusbert, Rowan Farm. True peace is not merely the absence of war, it is the presence of justice. Jane Addams. True freedom is not advanced in the permissive society, which confuses freedom with license to do anything whatever, and which in the name of freedom proclaims a kind of general amorality. It is a caricature of freedom to claim that people are free to organize their lives with no reference to moral values, and to say that society does not have to ensure the protection and advancement of ethical values. Such an attitude is destructive of freedom and peace. Pope John Paul II. Trust yourself. You know more than you think you do. Benjamin Spock. Truth is often sacrificed for the sake of stability and peace. Toba Beta. My ancestor was an ancient astronaut. Two things rob people of their peace of mind: work unfinished and work not yet begun. Ultimately, we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it toward others. And the more peace there is in us, the more peace there will also be in our troubled world. Eddie Hillesum. Universal peace sounds ridiculous to the head of an average family. Kin Hubbard. Until he extends the circle of his compassion to all living things, man will not himself find peace. Albert Schweitzer. Until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Martin Luther King Jr. Until he extends his circle of compassion to all living things, man will not find peace. Albert Schweitzer. Up until then I'd thought that white people and colored people getting along was the big aim, but after that I decided everybody being colorless together was a better plan. I thought of that policeman, Eddie Hazelworst, saying I'd lowered myself to be in this house of colored women, and for the very life of me I couldn't understand how it had turned out this way, how colored women had become the lowest ones on the totem pole. You only had to look at them to see how special they were, like hidden royalty among us. Sue Monk Kidd, The Secret Life of Bees. Veganism is about non-violence. It is about not engaging in harm to other sentient beings, to oneself, and to the environment upon which all beings depend for life. In my view, the animal rights movement is, at its core, a movement about ending violence to all sentient beings. It is a movement that seeks fundamental justice for all. It is an emerging peace movement that does not stop at the arbitrary line that separates humans from non-humans. Gary L. Francione. Violence is not the answer, it doesn't work anymore. We are at the end of the worst century in which the greatest atrocities in the history of the world have occurred. The nature of human beings must change. We must cultivate love and compassion. Martin Scorsese. War may sometimes be a necessary evil. But no matter how necessary, it is always an evil, never a good. We will not learn to live together in peace by killing each other's children. Jimmy Carter, The Nobel Peace Prize Lecture. War is only a cowardly escape from the problems of peace. Thomas Mann, This I Believe, The Personal Philosophies of 100 Thoughtful Men and Women. War grows out of the desire of the individual to gain advantage at the expense of his fellow men. Napoleon Hill. War is pillage versus resistance, and if illusions of magnitude could be transmuted into ideals of magnanimity, peace might be realized. Marianne Moore. War can only be abolished through war, and in order to get rid of the gun it is necessary to take up the gun. Mao Zedong. Peace is that brief glorious moment in history when everybody stands around reloading. War poisons the land like diseased minds downloaded into bowls of tears. War is over. If you want it. John Lennon. War is an invention of the human mind. The human mind can invent peace. Norman Cousins. Wars don't bring lasting peace, only lasting death. Janet Morris, Chris Morris. We often think of peace as the absence of war, that if powerful countries would reduce their weapon arsenals, we could have peace. But if we look deeply into the weapons, we see our own minds, our own prejudices, fears and ignorance. Even if we transport all the bombs to the moon, the roots of war and the roots of bombs are still there, in our hearts and minds, and sooner or later we will make new bombs. To work for peace is to uproot war from ourselves and from the hearts of men and women. To prepare for war, to give millions of men and women the opportunity to practice killing day and night in their hearts, is to plant millions of seeds of violence, anger, frustration, and fear that will be passed on for generations to come. Thich, Living Buddha, Living Christ. We shall find peace. We shall hear angels, we shall see the sky sparkling with diamonds. We used to wonder where war lived, what it was that made it so vile. And now we realize that we know where it lives, that it is inside ourselves. Albert Camus. We merely want to live in peace with all the world, to trade with them, to commune with them, to learn from their culture as they may learn from ours, so that the products of our toil may be used for our schools and our roads and our churches, and not for guns and planes and tanks and ships of war. Dwight D. Eisenhower. We have heard much of the phrase, peace and friendship. This phrase, in expressing the aspiration of America, is not complete. We should say instead, peace and friendship, in freedom. This, I think, is America's real message to the rest of the world. Dwight D. Eisenhower. We are all born and someday we'll all die. Most likely to some degree alone. What if our aloneness isn't a tragedy? What if our aloneness is what allows us to speak the truth without being afraid? What if our aloneness is what allows us to adventure, to experience the world as a dynamic presence, as a changeable, interactive thing? If I lived in Bosnia or Rwanda or who knows where else, needless death wouldn't be a distant symbol to me, it wouldn't be a metaphor, it would be a reality. And I have no right to this metaphor. But I use it to console myself. To give a fraction of meaning to something enormous and needless. This realization that I will live my life in this world where I have privileges. I can't cool boiling waters in Russia. I can't be Picasso. I can't be Jesus. I can't save the planet single-handedly. I can wash dishes. Rachel Corrie. We are each gifted in a unique and important way. It is our privilege and our adventure to discover our own special light. Mary Dunbar. We shall find peace. We shall hear the angels, we shall see the sky sparkling with diamonds. Anton Chekhov. We can make room for more experiences of radiance, peace, and beauty, and when we do, they arrive. When we make an intention to experience peace, when we value it enough to make room for it and invite it into our busy lives, it arrives bearing gifts. We make room for this guest, not by doing anything, but by just being, just allowing ourselves to rest, once and for all, in this sweet moment with no agenda, no purpose, no reason, but just to experience the moment as it is. We make room for peace and happiness by just noticing them. We notice that they are already here, and noticing them brings them more strongly into focus. Peace and happiness are always here, but they often go unnoticed. Gina Lake, What About Now? Reminders for being in the moment. We look forward to the time when the power of love will replace the love of power. Then will our world know the blessings of peace. William Ewart Gladstone. We must never forget to pray and to ask God to remember us when He is arranging things, so that we too may feel safe and have no anxiety about what is going to happen. Johanna Spiri, Heidi. We can never obtain peace in the outer world until we make peace with ourselves. Dalai Lama. We too should make ourselves empty, that the great soul of the universe may fill us with its breath. Lawrence Binion. We cannot tell what may happen to us in the strange medley of life. But we can decide what happens in us, how we take it, what we do with it, and that is what really counts in the end. Joseph Newton. We have undoubtedly achieved Pakistan, and that too without bloody war and practically peacefully, by moral and intellectual force and with the power of the pen, which is no less mighty than that of the sword, and so our righteous cause has triumphed. Are we now going to besmear and tarnish this greatest achievement for which there is no parallel in the history of the world? Pakistan is now a fait accompli, and it can never be undone. Besides, it was the only just, honorable and practical solution of the most complex constitutional problem of this great subcontinent. Let us now plan to build and reconstruct and regenerate our great nation. Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We can best help you to prevent war not by repeating your words and following your methods, but by finding new words and creating new methods. Virginia Woolf. We seek peace, knowing that peace is the climate of freedom. Dwight D. Eisenhower. We are beckoned to see the world through a one-way mirror, as if we are threatened and innocent and the rest of humanity is threatening, or wretched, or expendable. Our memory is struggling to rescue the truth that human rights were not handed down as privileges from a parliament, or a boardroom, or an institution, but that peace is only possible with justice and with information that gives us the power to act justly. John Pilger. We live in the post-trash, man. It'll be a real short Ian. Down in the ectoplasmic circuitry where humanity's leaders are all linked up unconsciously with each other and with the masses, man, there's been this unanimous worldwide decision to trash the planet and get onto a new one. Dennis Johnson, Tree of Smoke. Peaceful Ideas 9. We welcome change and openness, for we believe that freedom and security go together, that the advance of human liberty can only strengthen the cause of world peace. Ronald Reagan, The Quest for Peace, the Cause of Freedom. We should use our imagination more than our memory. Shimon Peres. We cannot justify treating any sentient non-human as our property, as a resource, as a thing that we use and kill for our purposes. Gary L. Francione. We look forward to the time when the power of love will replace the love of power. Then will our world know the blessings of peace. William Ewart Gladstone. We do not need guns and bombs to bring peace, we need love and compassion. Mother Teresa, The Joy in Loving, a Guide to Daily Living. We have no freer or quieter place to which we may retire than into our own souls, particularly when we have within us such thoughts that by looking into them we are immediately in perfect tranquility. And I affirm that tranquility is nothing else than the good ordering of the mind. Marcus Aurelius. Thinking about interior peace destroys interior peace. The patients who constantly feel their pulse are not getting any better. Hubert van Zeller. In truth, to attain to interior peace, one must be willing to pass through the contrary to peace. Swami Brahmananda. O God, grant us the serenity to accept what cannot be changed, the courage to change what can be changed, and the wisdom to know one from the other. Reinhold Niebuhr. Quiet minds cannot be perplexed or frightened, but go on in fortune or misfortune at their own private pace, like a clock during a thunderstorm. Robert Louis Stevenson. To be glad of life, because it gives you the chance to love and to work and to play and to look up to the stars, to be satisfied with your possessions, but not contented with yourself until you have made the best of them, to despise nothing in the world except falsehood and meanness and to fear nothing except cowardice, to be governed by your admirations rather than by your disgusts, to covet nothing that is your neighbor's except their kindness of heart and gentleness of manners, to think seldom of your enemies, often of your friends and every day of Christ, and to spend as much time as you can with body and spirit, in God's out of doors. These are the little guideposts on the footpath of peace. Henry van Dyke. We spend most of our time and energy in a kind of horizontal thinking. We move along the surface of things going from one quick base to another, often with a frenzy that wears us out. We collect data, things, people, ideas, profound experiences, never penetrating any of them. But there are other times. There are times when we stop. We lose ourselves in a pile of leaves or its memory. We listen and breezes from a whole other world begin to whisper. James Carroll. Calm soul of all things. Make it mine. To feel, amid the city's jar, that there abides a peace of thine. Man did not make and cannot mar. The will to neither strive nor cry. The power to feel what others give. Calm me more. Nor let me die before I have begun to live. Matthew Arnold. All our miseries derive from not being able to sit in a quiet room alone. Blaise Pascal. If you do not find peace in yourself, you will never find it anywhere else. Paula A. Bendry. The most common use of the word peace is as the opposite of war. This is understandable but unfortunate. Peace is not just the opposite of violence or turmoil but has a whole register of meanings all its own. The peace of a quiet landscape nurtures us. A calm moment to ourselves renews our energies. Interior peace energizes us, exterior peace gives us direction. A gentle sun, a calm ocean, the loving smile of a friend, all of these give us peace. We are sustained in a sweet area of calm. We can work on inner peace and world peace at the same time. On one hand, people have found inner peace by losing themselves in a cause larger than themselves, like the cause of world peace, because finding inner peace means coming from the self-centered life into the life centered in the good of the whole. On the other hand, one of the ways of working for world peace is to work for more inner peace, because world peace will never be stable until enough of us find inner peace to stabilize it. The peace dividend is peace. Dan Quayle. We make war that we may live in peace. Aristotle. We're all pieces of the same ever-changing puzzle. Some connected for mere seconds, some connected for life. Some connected through knowledge, some through belief. Some connected through wisdom, some through love, and some connected with no explanation at all. Yet, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we're all here for the sensations this reality or illusion has to offer. The best anyone can hope for is the right to be able to live, learn, love, then leave. After that, reap the benefits of their own chosen existence in the hereafter by virtue of simply believing in what they believe. As for here, it took me a while, but this progression helped me with my life. I like myself. I love myself. I am myself. Stanley Victor Paskovic. We're all only fragile threads, but what a tapestry we make. Jerry Ellis. Welfare reforms and the whole happy exploitation movement are not baby steps. They are big steps in a seriously backward direction. Gary L. Francione. What drains your spirit drains your body. What fuels your spirit fuels your body. Caroline Myss, Anatomy of the Spirit. What is defeat? Nothing but education, nothing but the first step toward something better. Wendell Phillips. What you mean by peace is nothing more than the endless repetition of human folly. Hayao Miyazaki via God Warrior Oma, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Vol. 7. What lies behind us and what lies before us are small matter compared to what lies within us. Ralph Waldo Emerson. What we need is a generation of peace. Jawaharlal Nehru. What all men are really after is some form, or perhaps only some formula, of peace. Joseph Conrad. What you are and who you are should provide greater clarity about where you have been and where you are headed. Although one distinguishes spiritual from physical nature, the ultimate unification of the two is the consequence of the struggle for internal, external, and eternal peace. T. F. Hodge, From Within I Rise, Spiritual Triumph Over Death and Conscious Encounters with the Divine Presence. What a blessing to be able to leave the cares of life for a brief period and spend time in the outstretched arms of your shepherd, rubbing, as it were, your cheek against his face in intimate fellowship through prayer. Elizabeth George, Quiet Confidence for a Woman's Heart. Whatever enables us to go to war, secures our peace. Thomas Jefferson. When great trees fall. When great trees fall. Rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down. In tall grasses. And even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall. In forests. Small things recoil into silence. Their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die. The air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe, briefly. Our eyes, briefly, see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines, gnaws on kind words, unsaid, promised walks, never taken. Great souls die and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period peace blooms, slowly and always, irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us. They existed. They existed. We can be and be better. For they existed. Maya Angelou. When I lay these questions before God, I get no answer. But a rather special sort of no answer. It is not the locked door. It is more like a silent, certainly not uncompassionate, gaze. As though he shook his head not in refusal but waiving the question. Like, peace, child, you don't understand. C.S. Lewis. When nations resort to arms, the human spirit is like a bird that cannot stand to hear its own song. Phoenix Desmond, Make Love to the Universe, Himalayan masters share spiritual wisdom. When we can't find peace in ourselves, it is vain to look for it elsewhere. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the slightest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. Hsin Ming. When you find peace within yourself, you become the kind of person who can live at peace with others. Peace Pilgrim. When a person's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with them. When someone has been mean to you, why would you want to be good to them? You wouldn't want to. That's what makes it hard. You do it anyway. Being good is hard. Much harder than being bad. Jean Duprow, The People of Sparks. When a man finds no peace within himself, it is useless to seek it elsewhere. François de la Rochefoucauld. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Rumi. When I say it's you I like, I'm talking about that part of you that knows that life is far more than anything you can ever see or hear or touch. That deep part of you that allows you to stand for those things without which humankind cannot survive. Love that conquers hate, peace that rises triumphant over war, and justice that proves more powerful than greed. Fred Rogers. When we feel love and kindness toward others, it not only makes others feel loved and cared for, but it helps us also to develop inner happiness and peace. Dalai Lama 14. When fire and water are at war, it is the fire that loses. Spanish proverb. When somebody is angry with us, we draw a halo around his or her head, in our minds. Does the person stop being angry then? Well, we don't know. We know, though, that when we draw a halo around a person, suddenly the person starts to look like an angel to us. John Lennon. Whenever something good happens, write it down. Buy a special notebook. And use it to list all the good in your life. Peter McWilliams. Where ignorance is our master, there is no possibility of real peace. Dalai Lama 14. Where they make a desert, they call it peace. Tacitus. Where's the point in fighting and slaying if you can make a friend out of any beast instead of a foe? Brian Jacques, Tag Rung. Whoever said you can't buy happiness forgot about little puppies. Jean Hill. Why can't people just sit and read books and be nice to each other? David Baldacci, The Camel Club. Why do I love thee, O night? Because you know I will never answer. Vera Nazarian. Wisdom comes from reflection. Deborah Day, be happy now. With the help of the Lord, you can handle life's challenges and heartaches, even the valley of the shadow of death. What comfort your fainting heart has, knowing that in those stumbling times of discouragement and despair, of depletion and seeming defeat, the shepherd will find you, restore and fix you, and follow you, until you are well on your way. Elizabeth George, Quiet Confidence for a Woman's Heart. With a philosophy education, one can infuriate his peers, intimidate his date, think of obscure, unreliable ways to make money and never regret a thing. Chris Jamie, Diotoma, Battery, Electric Personality. Within you right now is the power to do things you never dreamed possible. This power becomes available to you just as soon as you can change your beliefs. Maxwell Maltz. Without inner peace, outer peace is impossible. We all wish for world peace, but world peace will never be achieved unless we first establish peace within our own minds. We can send so-called peacekeeping forces into areas of conflict, but peace cannot be imposed from the outside with guns. Only by creating peace within our own mind and helping others to do the same can we hope to achieve peace in this world. Kelsang Gyatso, Transform Your Life, A Blissful Journey. Women particularly should concern themselves with peace because men by nature are more foolhardy and headstrong, and their overwhelming desire to avenge themselves prevents them from foreseeing the resulting dangers and terrors of war. But woman by nature is more gentle and circumspect. Therefore, if she has sufficient will and wisdom, she can provide the best possible means to pacify man. Christine de Pizan, The Treasure of the City of Ladies. World peace, like community peace, does not require that each man love his neighbor. It requires only that they live together with mutual tolerance, submitting their disputes to a just and peaceful settlement. John F. Kennedy. World peace will never be stable until enough of us find inner peace to stabilize it. Peace Pilgrim. World peace must develop from inner peace. Peace is not just mere absence of violence. Peace is, I think, the manifestation of human compassion. Dalai Lama 14. World peace can be achieved when the power of love replaces the love of power. Sri Chinmoy. Years ago, when Thomas Edison's factory burned down, he wasted no time bemoaning his fate. Immediately after the disaster, the reporters found a calm, quiet man already at work on plans for a new building. When Emerson's home was destroyed by fire and his precious books were being reduced to ashes, Louisa May Alcott came to console him. The great philosopher said, "Yes, yes, Louisa, they are all gone, but let us enjoy the blaze now. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, God and the politicians willing, the United States can declare peace upon the world and win it." Ely Culbertson, Must We Fight Russia, Chapter 5, 1946. You have peace, the old woman said, when you make it with yourself. Mitch Albom, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist. Mahatma Gandhi. You have everything you need for complete peace and total happiness right now. Wayne W. Dyer. You can have peace. Or you can have freedom. Don't ever count on having both at once. Robert A. Heinlein. You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say again that you did not know. William Wilberforce. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. Malcolm X. You do not mean there is danger of peace, cried Jack. Patrick O'Brien, Desolation Island. You actually cannot sell the idea of freedom, democracy, diversity, as if it were a brand attribute and not reality. Not at the same time as you're bombing people, you can't. Naomi Klein. You don't have to have fought in a war to love peace. Geraldine Ferraro. You can do anything you wish to do, have anything you wish to have, be anything you wish to be. Robert Collier. You might be tempted to avoid the messiness of daily living for the tranquility of stillness and peacefulness. This of course would be an attachment to stillness, and like any strong attachment, it leads to delusion. It arrests development and short-circuits the cultivation of wisdom. John Kabat-Zinn, wherever you go, there you are, mindfulness meditation in everyday life. You can't have a better tomorrow if you are thinking about yesterday all the time. Charles F. Kettering. You can't look at a sleeping cat and be tense. Jane Pauley. You may either win your peace or buy it, win it, by resistance to evil, buy it, by compromise with evil. John Ruskin. You Christians look after a document containing enough dynamite to blow all civilization to pieces, turn the world upside down and bring peace to a battle-torn planet. But you treat it as though it is nothing more than a piece of literature. Mahatma Gandhi. You will find peace not by trying to escape your problems, but by confronting them courageously. You will find peace not in denial, but in victory. J. Donald Walters. You talk when you cease to be at peace with your thoughts. And when you can no longer dwell in the solitude of your heart, you live in your lips, and sound is a diversion and a pastime. And in much of your talking, thinking is half murdered. Khalil Gibran, the prophet. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We will preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we will sentence them to take the first step into 1,000 years of darkness. If we fail, at least let our children and our children's children say of us, we justified our brief moment here. We did all that could be done. Ronald Reagan, A Time for Choosing, The Speeches of Ronald Reagan, 1961–1982. You can bomb the world to pieces, but you can't bomb it into peace. Power to the peaceful. Michael Franti. You cannot find peace by avoiding life. Virginia Woolf. You either get tired fighting for peace, or you die. John Lennon. You'll never have a quiet world till you knock the patriotism out of the human race. George Bernard Shaw, Heartbreak House. Your inner strength is your outer foundation. Alan Rufus. Your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you as by the attitude you bring to life. John Miller. Your words will either give you joy or give you sorrow, but if they were spoken without regret, they give you peace. Shannon L. Alder. Your enemy is never a villain in his own eyes. Keep this in mind, it may offer a way to make him your friend. If not, you can kill him without hate and quickly. Robert A. Heinlein. Peaceful Ideas 10. The ultimate source of comfort and peace is within ourselves. Dalai Lama 14. I think that people want peace so much that one of these days government had better get out of the way and let them have it. Dwight D. Eisenhower. His strength for your weakness. His wisdom for your folly. His drive for your drift. His grace for your greed. His love for your lust. His peace for your problems. His joy for your sorrow. His plenty for your poverty. Major Thomas. You are the moon that breaks the night. You are the fear that I hate to fight. Times are wrong in all that is done. My treasure is love that I give to only one. Cherish the treasures given to your heart and never let anything hurt from the start. You chose your path, so accept and believe that peace, love and light are needed to breathe. Peace Gypsy. When I shut my eyes on this world, I'll finally have peace. Kevin Walker, These Moments Pass, Poems. The darker side of the city tried to emphasize the selfish parts of me by encouraging my sense of entitlement and my desire for personal space. But God seemed to whisper that the alternative existed, to let him grow humility and concern for others in a way I had never experienced, to live out his peace amid whirling chaos. P67. Tara Lee Cobble, Crowded Skies, Letters to Manhattan. We will be able to depart this life with the quiet peace-giving notion that we were permitted to contribute to the happiness of many who will live after us. In our long lives we endeavored to unfold the collective consciousness. In our lives we have known hell and heaven. The final balance, however, is that we helped pave the way to dynamic harmony in this earthly house. That, I believe, is the meaning of life. R. W. Van Bemmelen. Your happiness depends on people around you and people you love, but peace of mind you alone can cultivate. Never lose your peace of mind even when unhappy. There comes a time for everybody when words and reasons can become such a great weariness. Christopher Pike, Sati. Listen, Harriet. I do understand. I know you don't want either to give or to take. You don't want ever again to have to depend for happiness on another person. That's true. That's the truest thing you ever said. All right. I can respect that. Only you've got to play the game. Don't force an emotional situation and then blame me for it. But I don't want any situation. I want to be left in peace. Dorothy L. Sayers, Have his carcass. All matters being spiritual, man or woman can only find peace when peace is realized from within. T. F. Hodge, From Within I Rise, Spiritual Triumph Over Death and Conscious Encounters with the Divine Presence. With love that knew no fear, the singer caught his torment, wrapped it all in song and gave it back to him as peace. Calvin Miller, the singer. And wasn't it this bright boy you selected for beating and tortures after hours? Of course it was. We must all be alike. Not everyone born free and equal, as the Constitution says, but everyone made equal. Each man the image of every other, then all are happy, for there are no mountains to make them cower, to judge themselves against. So. A book is a loaded gun in the house next door. Burn it. Take the shot from the weapon. Breach man's mind. Who knows who might be the target of the well-read man? Me? I won't stomach them for a minute. And so when houses were finally fireproofed completely, all over the world, you were correct in your assumption the other night, there was no longer need of firemen for the old purposes. They were given the new job, as custodians of our peace of mind, the focus of our understandable and rightful dread of being inferior, official censors, judges and executors. That's you, Montag, and that's me. Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. Being still does not mean don't move. It means move in peace. Ena. Gardner. For you have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. Augustine of Hippo. Live near to God, and so all things will appear to you little in comparison to eternal realities. Robert Murray McShaney. To be at peace with others you must be at peace with yourself. Ena. Gardner. People have been on Earth in our present form for only about 100,000 years, and in so many ways we're still ironing out our kinks. These turtles we've been traveling with, they outrank us in longevity, having earned 3 more zeros than we. They've got 100 million years of success on their resume, and they've learned something about how to survive in the world. And this, I think, is part of it. They have settled upon peaceful career paths, with a stable rhythm. If humans could survive another 100 million years, I expect we would no longer find ourselves riding bulls. It's not so much that I think animals have rights, it's more that I believe humans have hearts and minds, though I've yet to see consistent, convincing proof of either. Turtles may seem to lack sense, but they don't do senseless things. They're not terribly energetic, yet they do not waste energy. Turtles cannot consider what might happen, yet nothing turtles do threatens anyone's future. Turtles don't think about the next generation, but they risk and provide all they can to ensure that there will be one. Meanwhile, we profess to love our own offspring above all else, yet above all else it is they from whom we daily steal. We cannot learn to be more like turtles, but from turtles we could learn to be more human. That is the wisdom carried within 100 million years of survival. What turtles could learn from us, I can't quite imagine. Carl Safina, Voyage of the Turtle, in Pursuit of the Earth's Last Dinosaur. Peace is more of an internal settlement rather than what is visible on the external. Chris Jamie, Salome, in Every Inch in Every Mile. Do not expect peace with the enemy whose worth you do not recognize. Soren Siren, Wisdom Collection, The Book of Wisdom. Perhaps this was the secret to being at peace: want nothing but what is given to you. Amy Waldman, The Submission. Well, if that's what you call being at peace, for heaven's sake just warn me before you go to war, will you? Sinclair Lewis, Babbitt. We train the mind so that we can enjoy greater peace, happiness, wisdom, and equanimity. Alan Locos, Pocket Peace, Effective Practices for Enlightened Living. The world never leaves one in ignorance or in peace. Wida, Wanda. Peace and happiness are powerful weapons against the egos. Belzebub. Why, I've been all over the world, I tell you, and fairly loafed and lolled in every conceivable sort of ease and luxury, but the soul of me, the wild, restless, breathless, discontented soul of me never sat down before in all its life, I say, until my frightened hand cuddled into his broken one. I tell you, I don't pretend to explain it, I don't pretend to account for it, all I know is that smothering there under all that horrible wreckage and everything, the instant my hand went home to his, the most absolute sense of serenity and contentment went over me. Eleanor Hollowell Abbott, The Indiscreet Letter. In the 11 months preceding the outbreak of World War II, 211 treaties of peace were signed. Were these treaties of peace written on paper, or were they written on the hearts of men? And we must ask ourselves, as we hear of treaties being written today, whether the treaties of the UN are written with the full cognizance of the fact that those who sign them are responsible before God. Fulton J. Sheen, Life is Worth Living. They tell you knowledge is a curse but ignorance ain't bliss. They tell you love one another while waging war for peace. Peace is not the absence of war but the presence of justice. Harrison Ford. Even the wise appear foolish before one who brings peace to another. Phoenix Desmond, Make Love to the Universe, Himalayan Masters Share Spiritual Wisdom. It's going to be a hard time, we can count on that. But with all the misery, what opportunities to show mercy and brotherly love in our land, which has sinned so greatly against love and patience. For now is the time when the victors, in the blind triumph of their victory, are likely to make mistakes. But that's not our concern, for we shall only be the sufferers, not the agents of suffering. What a power for peace will lie in our own powerlessness if we can only glimpse in it the sign of grace. Margot Benariusbert, Dangerous Spring. There is no peace without power. Toba Beta, my ancestor was an ancient astronaut. I've lived through a war. I've seen burning corpses on the roadside. And yes, I will tell you, peace is the only way out. The Zuriwani Erichji. Eternal peace is hell for the adventurers. Toba Beta, Master of Stupidity. Love and honor the world around you and you experience life in its fullest. There is no other. There is simply us. The all of us, the whole of us. The mankind of us. Anything else is a lie. Cassandra Blizzard. But blaming Islam is a simple answer, easier and less controversial than re-examining the core political issues and grievances that resonate in much of the Muslim world, the failures of many Muslim governments and societies, some aspects of U.S. foreign policy representing intervention and dominance, Western support for authoritarian regimes, the invasion and occupation of Iraq, or support for Israel's military battles with Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. p. 136-137. John L. Esposito, who speaks for Islam, what a billion Muslims really think. But somehow, standing in the clear night air, under a sky that glowed like a shower of sparks, none of that stuff mattered. It slipped off me. It was like shedding your clothes before you step in the shower. I felt I was down to essentials again. In fact, I felt very close to God at that moment. I guess if you're ever going to feel close to God, it'll be while you're looking at the heavens. John Marsden, the night is for hunting. Why do we need money beyond a point? If we are free of ill health, enmity, and debt, is that not enough? Too much money only leads to less peace. Sri Tirumalai Krishnamakarya. By prolonged and continued fellowship, the sheep who follow nearby enjoy the shepherd's presence and become his familiar companions. To those closest to him, he shares the choicest portions of the food he's gathered. These happy and content sheep are never in danger. Why? Because they are near the shepherd. Elizabeth George, quiet confidence for a woman's heart. A good roast of sun, it slows you, lets you relax, and out here if there's anything wrong, you can see it coming with bags of time to do what's next. This is the place and the weather for peace, for the cultivation of a friendly mind. A. L. Kennedy, Day. Millions cheer the warrior, spilling blood across the ring, while the one who stands for peace is ridiculed and shamed. Must hearts forever suffer from ignorance and greed? Can bombs heal our souls, or set our spirits free? Aubergani, Christmas when music almost killed the world. I do not intend to defend capitalism or capitalists. They, like everything human, have their defects. I only say their possibilities of usefulness are not ended. Capitalism has borne the monstrous burden of the war and today still has the strength to shoulder the burdens of peace. It is not simply and solely an accumulation of wealth, it is an elaboration, a selection, a coordination of values which is the work of centuries. Many think, and I myself am one of them, that capitalism is scarcely at the beginning of its story. Benito Mussolini. Be thankful for a breath of fresh air to be alive and well. Allow love and happiness to penetrate throughout your mind and soul. Take time to relax and live in the moment, the now, the present. Enjoy today. Ameka Imaninko Sazana. The all-victorious Christ is like a great rock in a weary land, to whose shelter we may flee in every time of sorrow or trial, finding quiet refuge and peace in Him. J. R. Miller. We are against war and the sources of war. We are for poetry and the sources of poetry. Muriel Rukeyser, The Life of Poetry. It is a higher glory to stay war itself with a word, than to slay men with the sword and to procure or maintain peace by peace, not by war. Augustine of Hippo, The Political Writings of St. Augustine. You can blow the world to pieces, but you can't blow the world to peace. Denis Kucinich. I wanted to shut my mind, that my thoughts might close. On my own peace, I wanted to close. The peace of my love in my heart. Like dew in a dark rose. From Philip Speaks. Carol Houselander, The Flowering Tree. The ocean, the desert, and the jungle are the last strongholds and resorts of peace. P. C. Wren. I don't just want to ban the bomb. I want to ban all bombs, whatever, and all bombers, whoever, and all bombings, whyever. There have to be better ways of saying no and making changes. Aidan Chambers, Nick, Now I Know. We travel together as passengers on a little spaceship, dependent on its vulnerable reserves of air and soil, all committed for our safety to its security and peace, preserved from annihilation only by the care, the work, and I'll say the love we give our fragile craft. We cannot maintain it half fortunate, half miserable, half confident, half despairing, half slave to the ancient enemies of man, half free in liberation of resources undreamed of until this day. No craft, no crew can travel safely with such contradictions. On their resolution depends the survival of us all. Adlai Stevenson. Davu looked up and gazed intently at him. For some seconds they looked at one another, and that look saved Pierre. Apart from conditions of war and law, that look established human relations between the two men. At that moment an immense number of things passed dimly through both their minds, and they realized that they were both children of humanity and were brothers. Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace. Human has no experience at all about living in a peaceful world without war. Toba Beta, my ancestor was an ancient astronaut. When we pillow our heads at night, we need to have things that give us peace. Many such things are available, but one of the best is the simple peace of knowing that we've done things that day that were not easy for us to do. If we can see ourselves as people who are learning little by little to master the hard parts of life, we will live with a greater confidence and be able to serve those around us more helpfully. The ancient adage is true which tells us, a ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Gary Henry. Now the valley cried with anger, "Mount your horses, draw your sword." And they killed the mountain people, so they won their just reward. Now they stood beside the treasure, on the mountain dark and red. Turned the stone and looked beneath it. Peace on earth was all it said. Go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day. On the bloody morning after one tin soldier rides away. Dennis Lambert. Critical to the fight against global terrorism is an ability to move beyond presuppositions and stereotypes in our attitudes and policies and to form partnerships that transcend an us and them view of the world. p. 135. John L. Esposito. The wheel of life has many spokes, yet so few people ever leave the hub. Stanley Victor Paskovic. I believe that peace becomes possible when we choose to make peace an attitude and a habit. I believe that the reality of peace begins within each one of us. Matty J. T. Stepanek. Just peace, a message of hope. Negotiations with Iran, especially, will not be easy under any circumstances, but I suspect that they might be somewhat less difficult if the nuclear weapon states could show that their requests are part of a broader effort to lead the world, including themselves, toward nuclear disarmament. Preventing further proliferation is essential, but it is not a recipe for success to preach to the rest of the world to stay away from the very weapons that nuclear states claim are indispensable to their own security. Hans Blix, Why Nuclear Disarmament Matters. For some 20 years the window that opened at the end of the Cold War has been allowed to hang flapping in the wind. It is high time that the 5 nuclear weapon states take seriously their commitment to negotiate toward nuclear disarmament. Hans Blix, Why Nuclear Disarmament Matters. Nothing is final in history. It always moves on. Peace must be built again and again. Thorbjørn Jagland. If you investigate the matter deeply enough and widely enough, you will find that happiness eludes nearly all men despite the fact that they are forever seeking it. The fortunate and successful few are those who have stopped seeking with the ego alone and allow the search to be directed inwardly by the higher self. They alone can find a happiness unblemished by defects or deficiencies, a supreme good which is not a further source of pain and sorrow but an endless source of satisfaction and peace. Paul Brunton, The Notebooks of Paul Brunton. At the end of the day, we're all just running a race in our own heads against time, with different goals and objectives. The only thing we all have common is the target of peace and the destination, that is death. M.S. Malik. God never asked us to meet life's pressures and demands on our own terms or by relying upon our own strength. Nor did He demand that we win His favor by assembling an impressive portfolio of good deeds. Instead, He invites us to enter His rest. Charles R. Swindoll. I'm really a peaceful sort of coward. L.A. Meyer. As soon as you stop making everyone else responsible for your happiness, the happier you'll be. Nina Gilbo. I only seem negative to the fortunate. That's because I show the less fortunate that they aren't less fortunate after all. Chris Jamie. The purpose of anthropology is to make the world safe for human differences. Ruth Benedict. People often speak of hell, not wanting to go there, avoiding it. I never had that problem because hell is a state of mind. Look around you: rape, murder, wars, hatred, envy. My friend, you're already there. Sandra Chami Cassis. Accept yourself, flaws, quirks, talents, secret thoughts, all of it, and experience true liberation. Amy Lee Mercury. Righteous, I like that. Kind of fitting when you think about it. If we danced and shared music, we'd be too busy enjoying life to start a war. E. A. Buccaneering, brush strokes of a gadfly. War does not answer war, war does not finish war. The only ending is peace. Philippa Gregory, the Constant Princess. Create your best life with your consciously chosen thoughts, words, and actions. Amy Lee Mercury. The note of the perfect personality is not rebellion, but peace. Oscar Wilde, the soul of man under socialism. War is sweet to those who have not experienced it. Desiderius Erasmus. God has called His creation to find satisfaction in a personal relationship with Him and stop trying to manage the world by conforming it to our expectations and to allow Him to govern His creation. He continues to say through an ancient Hebrew worship song, "Be still and know that I am God." Charles R. Swindoll. Hope is a dream of which we long to have. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't hope for something, because hope brings joy and joy brings happiness, and it's all tied up in a big ball of love. Peace Gypsy, Souls Deep. We work for peace every time we exercise authority with wisdom and authentic love. Jean Vanier, Finding Peace. Having the life of your dreams is simple, make conscious choices. Amy Lee Mercury. Since nothing is absolute, there is no absolute silence. Only an appearance of temporary peace. Dejan Stojanovic. Peace cannot be achieved, they have to be plucked out of their pod. A. G. Phillips. The Army's new pitch was simple. Good pay, good benefits, a manageable amount of adventure, but don't worry, we're not looking to pick fights these days. For a country that had paid so dear a price for its recent military buccaneering, the message was comforting. We still had the largest and most technologically advanced standing army in the world, the most nuclear weapons, the best and most powerful conventional weapons systems, the biggest navy. At the same time, to the average recruit the promise wasn't some imminent and dangerous combat deployment, it was $288 a month, every month, training, travel, and experience. Selling the post-Vietnam military as a career choice meant selling the idea of peacetime service. It meant selling the idea of peacetime. Varf. Rachel Maddow, Drift, the unmooring of American military power. How goddamn foolish it is, the war. There's no war in the worth that's worth fightin' for. I don't care where it is. They can't tell me any different. Money is the thing that causes it all. I wouldn't be a bit surprised that the people that start wars and promote them are the men that make the money, make the ammunition, make the clothing and so forth. Just think of the poor kids that are starving to death in Asia and so forth that could be fed with how much you make one big shell of. Studs Terkel. Stonecutters fighting time with marble, you four defeated. Challengers of oblivion. Eat cynical earnings, knowing rock splits, records fall down. The square-limbed Roman letters. Scale in the thaws, where in the rain. The poet as well builds his monument mockingly. For man will be blotted out, the blithe earth die, the brave sun die blind and blackened to the heart. Yet stones have stood for 1,000 years and pain thoughts found. The Honey of Peace in Old Poems. Robinson Jeffers, Selected Poems. Suspense left my life a long time ago, now it has returned. I do not care for it. Ben Marcus, The Flame Alphabet. We all need something that takes us out of day to day and reminds us that it's all okay. Ian Tucker, Your Simple Path. Peace is the respect for the rights of the other person. Jayakonda Belli, The Inhabited Woman. Peace comes to those who let others live in peace. Indira Mukherjee. To be a dwarf in peace is more honorable than to be a giant in war. Mehmet Murat Ilden. I realized that more and more I was saying, it seems to me that we have come to the time war ought to be given up. It no longer makes sense to kill 20 million or 40 million people because of a dispute between two nations who are running things, or decisions made by the people who really are running things. It no longer makes sense. Nobody wins. Nobody benefits from destructive war of this sort, and there is all of this human suffering. And Einstein was saying the same thing, of course. So that is when we decided, my wife and I, that first, I was pretty effective as a speaker. Second, I better start boning up, studying these other fields so that nobody could stand up and say, well, the authorities say such and such. Linus Pauling. There will always be another war, Gilead. He allowed his cynicism to seep through. Do you know why? Because there will always be bigots and cowards and power-mad devils in positions of omnipotence. Look around you. There has been war here since time began. It's nature. Animals kill each other for survival, for territory, and for the taste of blood in their mouths. Man is no different. V.S. Carnes. She looked from the hilt protruding between her breasts into the eyes of the boy she loved. The golden light in them enfolded her, and her heart stopped beating, leaving the ghost of her smile on her mouth. Her vacant eyes mirrored something infinitely close to peace. Farah Nassim. As things are now going, the peace we will make, the peace we seem to be making, will be a piece of oil, a piece of gold, a piece of shipping, a piece, in brief, without moral purpose or human interest. Archibald MacLeish. One channel is the stress channel and the other is the peace channel. We really do have a choice about what we listen to. The peace channel can only be heard when we are present in the moment, when we are in the now. To tune into the peace channel, all we have to do is be, experience, notice and naturally respond to what is arising in the moment. To tune into the stress channel, we just have to start believing our thoughts again. Eliminating stress is just a matter of tuning out the negative and tuning in the positive and just being, experiencing, and dancing to that music instead of the mind's chatter. Gina Lake, What About Now? Reminders for being in the moment. We live in the post-trash, man. It'll be a real short Ian. Down in the ectoplasmic circuitry where humanity's leaders are all linked up unconsciously with each other and with the masses, man, there's been this unanimous worldwide decision to trash the planet and get onto a new one. Dennis Johnson, Tree of Smoke. Michael wasn't on the pool deck, which was hard for me. None of my old Coral Springs teammates were around. Still, that old plane of cement felt like home. I folded my clothes and put them on the bench. I placed my water bottle under my starting block and I dove in. Once again, I felt that ultimate state of transition, my feet no longer on the ground, my hands not yet in the water. Dara Torres, age is just a number, achieve your dreams at any stage in your life. And now, dear Lord, I acknowledge afresh that you are the God of all peace, my Jehovah Shalom. My job is to receive. You give me your peace. My job is to take it. You lead me to your still waters. My role is to follow. You extend your hand. My role is to take hold. I enjoy your presence and the tranquility of the still waters where you pour out your promise of peace. Amen. Elizabeth George, Quiet Confidence for a Woman's Heart. A book is good company. It is full of conversation without loquacity. It comes to your longing with full instruction, but pursues you never. Henry Ward Beecher. There's a man who is my brother. I just don't know his name. But I know his home and family. Because I know we feel the same. And it hurts me when he's hungry. Or when his children cry. I too am a father. That little one is mine. It's about time we begin it. To turn the world around. It's about time we start to make it. The dream we've always known. It's about time we start to live it. The family of man. It's about time. It's about changes. And it's about time. It's about you and me together. And it's about time. John Denver. The line between him and the enemy had simultaneously blurred and solidified. Somehow, while perhaps it shouldn't have, this thought provided a strange sense of peace. Christina McMorris, Bridge of Scarlet Leaves. How many fears came between us? Earthquakes, diseases, wars where hell rained smoldering pus. From skies made of winged death. Horror tore this world asunder. While inside the bleeding smoke, and beyond the shredded weeping flesh, we memorized tales of infinite good. From the history lesson. Aubergani, Elemental, The Power of Illuminated Love. Being a senior doesn't automatically make one wise, but the wise and foolish alike have things to teach us. Alan Locos, Pocket Peace, Effective Practices for Enlightened Living. Peace would always be less compelling than war. Perhaps that was why there was so little of it in the world. p. 160. Eknath Iswaran, Nonviolent Soldier of Islam, Badshah Khan, a man to match his mountains. Then, already, it had brought to his mind the silence brooding over beds in which he had let men die. There as here it was the same solemn pause, the lull that follows battle, it was the silence of defeat. But the silence now enveloping his dead friend, so dense, so much akin to the nocturnal silence of the streets and of the town set free at last, made Rear cruelly aware that this defeat was final, the last disastrous battle that ends a war and makes peace itself an ill beyond all remedy. The doctor could not tell if Tarot had found peace, now that all was over, but for himself he had a feeling that no peace was possible to him henceforth, any more than there can an armistice for a mother bereaved of a son or for a man who buries his friend. Albert Camus. We can make room for more experiences of radiance, peace, and beauty, and when we do, they arrive. When we make an intention to experience peace, when we value it enough to make room for it and invite it into our busy lives, it arrives bearing gifts. We make room for this guest, not by doing anything, but by just being, just allowing ourselves to rest, once and for all, in this sweet moment with no agenda, no purpose, no reason, but just to experience the moment as it is. We make room for peace and happiness by just noticing them. We notice that they are already here, and noticing them brings them more strongly into focus. Peace and happiness are always here, but they often go unnoticed. Gina Lake, What About Now? Reminders for being in the moment. Listen to your hearts, parents. You are the expert when it comes to knowing your child. I love the scripture that says we are to let the peace of God rule in our hearts. In other words, peace in your heart is to be like an umpire calling the shots. When in doubt, don't. Sherry Eldridge, 20 Things Adopted Kids Wish Their Adoptive Parents Knew. The modern age knows nothing about isolation and nothing about silence. In our quietest and loneliest hour, the automatic ice maker in the refrigerator will cluck and drop an ice cube, the automatic dishwasher will sigh through its changes, a plane will drone over, the nearest freeway will vibrate the air. Red and white lights will pass in the sky, lights will shine along highways and glance off windows. There is always a radio that can be turned to some all-night station, or a television set to turn artificial moonlight into the flickering images of the Late Show. We can put on a turntable whatever consolation we most respond to, Mozart or Copland or the Grateful Dead. Wallace Stegner, Angle of Repose. Peaceful Ideas 11. For a few moments, attune your mind to the idea of harmony and peaceful coexistence flowing among all peoples and nations. The source of this idea is deep within your heart. As you calmly breathe in and out, picture it radiating from you like a fine, colored vapor gradually covering the face of the earth. See it enter the hearts of everyone, especially those stuck in the mad zones. Feel it circulate everywhere until it comes all the way round and back to you. This is love in action. The source of this love is the Tao. Savor this. Stephen Russell, Barefoot Doctor's Guide to the Tao, a spiritual handbook for the urban warrior. I see this as the central issue of our time, how to find a substitute for war in human ingenuity, imagination, courage, sacrifice, patience. War is not inevitable, however persistent it is, however long a history it has in human affairs. It does not come out of some instinctive human need. It is manufactured by political leaders, who then must make a tremendous effort by enticement, by propaganda, by coercion to mobilize a normally reluctant population to go to war. Howard Zinn, You Can't Be Neutral on a Moving Train, A Personal History of Our Times. War can condition a person to be resilient, tolerant, dependable, strong, and capable of so much more than one who had experienced nothing of it. It can bring out the very best in us, but also the very worst. Where is it, I ask, the proper conduit through which a soldier should be raised from whence they would become an upstanding citizen of the world, instead of a single country? Mike Norton. The most important step in developing skillful speech is to think before speaking. Alan Locos, Patience, The Art of Peaceful Living. There is no monopoly of common sense on either side of the political fence. We share the same biology, regardless of ideology. Believe me when I say to you, I hope the Russians love their children too. There's no such thing as a winnable war. It's a lie we don't believe anymore. Sting, The Dream of the Blue Turtles. The warlike days are over. Blood is too precious a thing in these days of dishonorable peace, and the glories of the great races are as a tale that is told. Bram Stoker, Dracula. At the present stage of development of the world market and of world economy, the conception of Europe as an isolated economic unit is a sterile concoction of the brain. And if the idea of a European Union in the economic sense has long been outstripped, this is no less the case in the political sense. Only were one suddenly to lose sight of all these happenings and maneuvers and to transfer oneself back to the blissful times of the European concert of powers, could one say, for instance, that for 40 years we have had uninterrupted peace. This conception, which considers only events on the European continent, does not notice that the very reason why we have had no war in Europe for decades is the fact that international antagonisms have grown infinitely beyond the narrow confines of the European continent and that European problems and interests are now fought out on the world seas and in the by-corners of Europe. Rosa Luxemburg speaks. Now stir the fire and close the shutters fast. Let fall the curtains, wheel the sofa round. And, while the bubbling and loud hissing urn throws up a steamy column and the cups that cheer but not inebriate, wait on each. So let us welcome peaceful evening in. William Cooper, The Complete Poetical Works of William Cooper. I fear that some of us understand just enough about the gospel to feel guilty that we are not measuring up to some undefinable standard, but not enough about the atonement to feel the peace and strength, the power and mercy it affords us. Sherry Dew. On faith's battered back calm eyes edge prayers that cool a nation's hot rage. Aubergine, The River of Winged Dreams. It partook of eternity. There is a coherence in things, a stability, something, she meant, is immune from change and shines out. She glanced at the window with its ripple of reflected lights, in the face of the flowing, the fleeting, the spectral, like a ruby, so that again tonight she had the feeling she had had once today, already, of peace, of rest. Of such moments, she thought, the thing is made that endures. Virginia Woolf, To the Lighthouse. As surely as I feel love and need for food and water, I feel love and need for God. But these feelings have nothing to do with supramundane males planning torments for those who don't abide by neocon moral values. I hold the evangelical truth of our situation to be that contemporary politicized fundamentalists, including first and foremost those aimed at empire and Armageddon, need us non-fundamentalists, mystics, ecosystem activists, unprogrammable artists, agnostic humanitarians, incorrigible writers, truth-telling musicians, incorruptible scientists, organic gardeners, slow food farmers, gay restaurateurs, wilderness visionaries, pagan preachers of sustainability, compassion-driven entrepreneurs. Heartbroken Muslims, grief-stricken children, loving believers, loving disbelievers, peace-marching millions, and the one who loves us all in such a huge way that it is not going too far to say, they need us for their salvation. David James Duncan, God Laughs and Plays, Churchless Sermons in Response to the Preachments of the Fundamentalist Right. Of one thing we may be sure, we can never escape the external stimuli that cause vexation. The world is full of them, and though we were to retreat to a cave and live the remainder of our days alone, we still could not lose them. The rough floor of the cave would chafe us, the weather would irritate us, and the very silence would cause us to fret. A. W. Tozer. We should not be surprised that more and more people feel comfortable about consuming animal products. After all, they are being assured by the experts that suffering is being decreased and they can buy happy meat, free-range eggs, etc. These products even come with labels approved of by animal organizations. The animal welfare movement is actually encouraging the compassionate consumption of animal products. Animal welfare reforms do very little to increase the protection given to animal interests because of the economics involved. Animals are property. They are things that have no intrinsic or moral value. This means that welfare standards, whether for animals used as foods, in experiments, or for any other purpose, will be low and linked to the level of welfare needed to exploit the animal in an economically efficient way for the particular purpose. Put simply, we generally protect animal interests only to the extent we get an economic benefit from doing so. The concept of unnecessary suffering is understood as that level of suffering that will frustrate the particular use. And that can be a great deal of suffering. Gary L. Francione. We are in God's hands. We can't come up with a surprise big enough or a sin vile enough to thwart His plan. If we allow Him to refine us, we will inevitably end up free from the impurities that separate us from Him. Tony Sorensen. The brainless serenity of charwomen and janitors working late at night came over us. In a messy world we were at least making our little corner clean. Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle. One man cannot wage a war alone. Therefore, if humanity stops agreeing to go to war, there will be only peace. Richard Kevin Hartley. You were too alert to the figurative possibilities of words not to see the phrase angle of repose as descriptive of human as well as detrital rest. As you said, it was too good for mere dirt, you tried to apply it to your own wandering and uneasy life. I wonder if you ever reached it. Wallace Stegner, Angle of Repose. You really think the world will ever know peace? Is that how you see the world? Malassi asked softly. That's how the world can be seen, his friend replied with a smile. Obeng Biliani. Some minds are blessed to be in peace. They stay in peace wherever they are, whatever they do. And some people throw themselves to break the peace of mind in pieces. That was one of the inherent flaws of faith. Belief without knowing. But worse yet, belief without action. It could be good in its own right. Beautiful, even, when embraced, but that had to be measured. Checked. Too many surrendered themselves to it. What they did not see was simple fact. Religion did not bring peace. It merely offered a means. It was up to men to create peace. Chris Galford, The Hollow March. Through the heartfelt mercies of our God, God's sunrise will break in upon us, shining on those in the darkness, those sitting in the shadow of death, then showing us the way, 1 foot at a time, down the path of peace. Anonymous. We can remove the veil that shrouds our understanding and made us forget who we truly are. When we understand the core self and live from the core self, the myth of separation, concepts of separation, color, religion, class, intelligence, all these fade away. We are not our color. We are not our religion. We are not our sexual preference. We are human beings. We are spiritual beings. Cassandra Blizzard, a world without color. Unconditional conditions are sometimes conditioned to conditionally exist. By practicing meditation we establish love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity as our home. Sharon Salzberg, Loving Kindness, the Revolutionary Art of Happiness. If the entire world sought to make itself worthy of happiness rather than make itself happy, then the entire world would be happy. Chris Jamie, Venus in Arms. Peace be upon you, for you have persevered. How excellent, then, this fulfillment in the hereafter. Anonymous, the Quran. The bottom line is this: peace will come to Israel and the Middle East only when the Israeli government is willing to comply with international law, with the roadmap for peace, with official American policy, with the wishes of a majority of its own citizens, and honor its own previous commitments by accepting its legal borders. All Arab neighbors must pledge to honor Israel's right to live in peace under these conditions. The United States is squandering international prestige and goodwill and intensifying global anti-American terrorism by unofficially condoning or abetting the Israeli confiscation and colonization of Palestinian territories. Jimmy Carter, Palestine, Peace Not Apartheid. As a Nobel Peace Laureate, I, like most people, agonize over the use of force. But when it comes to rescuing an innocent people from tyranny or genocide, I've never questioned the justification for resorting to force. That's why I supported Vietnam's 1978 invasion of Cambodia, which ended Pol Pot's regime, and Tanzania's invasion of Uganda in 1979, to oust Idi Amin. In both cases, those countries acted without UN or international approval, and in both cases they were right to do so. José Ramos Horta, A Matter of Principle, Humanitarian Arguments for War in Iraq. The nature of the world is to become and enhance and support life, and evil is an absence of the inclination of matter to be at peace. Gregory Maguire, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. You demagogues are like the fishers for eels, in still waters they catch nothing, but if they thoroughly stir up the slime, their fishing is good. In the same way it's only in troublous times that you line your pockets. Aristophanes, The Knights. A pacifist between wars is like a vegetarian between meals. Ammon Hennessy. The positive vibrations of unregulated joy, peace, happiness, and tranquility is freedom. T. F. Hodge, From Within I Rise, Spiritual Triumph Over Death and Conscious Encounters with the Divine Presence. Ah, my dear friend, cheer up. After all, we have peace. And because there is peace, the occupiers can't behave so abominably anymore. All right, we're not free. But we are used to that, Mr. Kujawski. After all, we were both born into slavery and we will die in it. Oh yes, at first they'll exploit us ruthlessly. 14 hours of slave labor a day. A bowl of watery soup. Whippings, beatings. But that will pass with time. Because there is peace, they won't have a chance to get any new slaves. They'll have to take good care of those have already. Cheer up, dear Mr. Kujawski. We will lack only one thing. Only one. The right of dissent. The right to say out loud that we want a free and independent Poland, that we want to brush our teeth and go on holiday in our own way, conceive children and work our own way, think in our own way, live and die. This is the one thing you will find missing in the sunshine of European peace, which you, my friend, hold to be the highest good. Andrzej Zachipierski, The Beautiful Mrs. Seidenman. Surely your longings and feelings arise from the God who created you. They were created in order to be filled, not crushed. Surely we shall find peace not by eliminating desire, but by finding its fulfillment and satisfaction in the one who created it. Sundar Singh. First, people should open their eyes to see structural sin, which is the very existence of a first and third world. As long as there's a first world, there won't be peace because there won't be justice or sharing. Pedro Casaldoliga, p. 243. MEV Polio, struggle is one, voices and visions of liberation. As we send our armsmen and sailors away to fight and die together, let there be peace between us. If there cannot be peace in the world, at least let it be welcome here. Daniel Abraham, The Price of Spring. I have brought peace to this land and security, he began. And what of your soul, when you use the cleverness of argument to cloak such acts? Do you think that the peace of 1,000 cancels out the unjust death of one single person? It may be desirable, it may win you praise from those who have happily survived you and prospered from your deeds, but you have committed ignoble acts and have been too proud to own them. I have waited patiently here, hoping that you would come to me, for if you understood, then some of your acts would be mitigated. But instead you send me this manuscript, proud, magisterial and demonstrating only that you have understood nothing at all. I returned to public life on your advice, madam, he said stiffly. Yes, I advised it. I said if learning must die it should do so with a friend by its bedside. Not an assassin. In pairs, the dream of Scipio. I strongly feel that it is only when there is a deep understanding of one's own religious beliefs and commitments that progress can be made in achieving true understanding and respect for the religious values and beliefs of others. Engaging in interfaith dialogue does not in any way mean undermining one's own faith or religious tradition. Indeed, interfaith dialogue is constructive only when people become firmly grounded in their own religious traditions and through that process gain a willingness to listen and respect the beliefs of other religions. Bacilius, ch. 3, p. 48-49. David R. Smock, Interfaith Dialogue and Peace Building. Why had peace given place so soon to turmoil? To two separate solitudes? Because peace had been without thought? Without integrity? How could she have felt like that without love? Was love essential? Did it even exist? The love she had dreamed of her life? If it did, it was too late now for her to find it. Must she make do with this instead, then? Only this? Pleasure without love? Mary Balog, then comes seduction. Great compassion makes a peaceful heart. A peaceful heart makes a peaceful person. A peaceful person makes a peaceful family. A peaceful family makes a peaceful community. A peaceful community makes a peaceful nation. A peaceful nation makes a peaceful world. Mahatma. Saddam's politics was the politics of the thug, of violence from the outset of his reign. Realism suggests that some people are not going to be tractable in response to purely peaceable overtures. Indeed, it certainly appears that some individuals, including notably Saddam Hussein, will cheerfully help themselves to a yard for every inch offered by well-meaning peacemakers. When we are dealing with customers as tough as that, there is no alternative to being tough ourselves. Jan Narveson, A Matter of Principle, Humanitarian Arguments for War in Iraq. I walked with my eyes on the path, but out of the corners of them I saw a man hiding behind an olive tree. He did not move as we approached, but I felt that he was watching us. As soon as we had passed I heard a scamper. Wilson, like a hunted animal, had made for safely. That was the last I ever saw of him. He died last year. He had endured that life for 6 years. He was found one morning on the mountainside lying quite peacefully as though he had died in his sleep. From where he lay he had been able to see those two great rocks called the Faraglioni which stand out of the sea. It was full moon and he must have gone to see them by moonlight. Perhaps he died of the beauty of that sight. The Lotus Eater. W. Somerset Maugham. As participants in a mobile culture, our default is to move. God embraces our broken world and I have no doubt that God can use our movement for good. But I am convinced that we lose something essential to our existence as creatures if we do not recognize our fundamental need for stability. Trees can be transplanted, often with magnificent results. But their default is to stay. Jonathan Wilson Hartgrove, The Wisdom of Stability, Rooting Faith in a Mobile Culture. We are thankful to come here for rest, sir, said Jenny. You see, you don't know what the rest of this place is to us, does he, Lizzie? It's the quiet and the air. The quiet, repeated Fledgeby, with a contemptuous turn of his head towards the city's roar. And the air? With a poof. Ah! Said Jenny. But it's so high. And you see the clouds rushing on above the narrow streets, not minding them, and you see the golden arrows pointing at the mountains in the sky from which the wind comes, and you feel as if you were dead. The little creature looked above her, holding up her slight transparent hand. How do you feel when you are dead? Asked Fledgeby, much perplexed. Oh, so tranquil! Cried the little creature, smiling. Oh, so peaceful and so thankful! And you hear the people who are alive, crying and working and calling to one another down in the closed dark streets, and you seem to pity them so. And such a chain has fallen from you, and such a strange good sorrowful happiness comes upon you. Her eyes fell on the old man, who, with his hands folded, quietly looked on. Why, it was only just now, said the little creature, pointing at him, that I fancied I saw him come out of his grave. He toiled out at that low door so bent and worn, and then he took his breath and stood upright and looked all round him at the sky, and the wind blew upon him, and his life down in the dark was over, till he was called back to life, she added, looking round at Fledgeby with that lower look of sharpness. Why did you call him back? He was long enough coming, anyhow, grumbled Fledgeby. But you are not dead, you know, said Jenny Wren. Get down to life. Mr. Fledgeby seemed to think it rather a good suggestion, and with a nod turned round. As Raya followed to attend him down the stairs, the little creature called out to the Jew in a silvery tone, "Don't be long gone. Come back and be dead." And still as they went down they heard the little sweet voice, more and more faintly, half calling and half singing, "Come back and be dead, come back and be dead." Charles Dickens, our mutual friend. War created bizarre allies, while peace itself could be divisive. Ian Rankin, Blood Hunt. When I reach the end of one row, I continue straight on away from the barn and the farm and the road. I walk until I come to a pile of hay bales and plop myself down. The sun is bright and the air is sharp. In the distance I hear the lowing of cows. It's so peaceful here. Merry Christmas, I whisper to myself. Merry Christmas, Nate. Lisa Ann Sandel, A Map of the Known World. Peace and supreme joy may seem like end states to practitioners on more difficult spiritual paths, but the path of devotion should be filled with peace and joy from the very beginning. Their absence is an indication that something is amiss. Prem Prakash, The Yoga of Spiritual Devotion, a modern translation of the Narada Bhakta Sutras. If water won't smother the blaze, Father, take my tears and bestow them on the fire. See if the fires will wither. Zachariah Amata, No Women in Poetry. I have taken all my good deeds and all my bad deeds and cast them in a heap before the Lord, and fled from both, and betaken myself to the Lord Jesus Christ, and in him I have sweet peace. David Dixon. If the true God is not allowed to lead our lives, society will continue to immerse itself into bad decision, poor planning, and selfishness on all levels. This will lead to a worldwide revolution that will fuel more meaningless wars, injustice, horrific crimes, loss of life, and what really matters the most, hope for the future. A love that could warm hearts. A trust that would never betray a brother or a friend. A peace that the world has never seen. Delane Robbins. Pursue peace with all people and holiness, without which no one will see the Lord, looking carefully lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness springing up cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. Hebrews 12:14-15. It is the privilege and the curse of midnight's children to be both masters and victims of their times, to forsake privacy and be sucked into the annihilating whirlpool of the multitudes, and to be unable to live or die in peace. Salman Rushdie. Militarism has been by far the commonest cause of the breakdown of civilizations. The single art of war makes progress at the expense of all the arts of peace. Arnold Joseph Toynbee. Peace, in the sense of the absence of war, is of little value to someone who is dying of hunger or cold. It will not remove the pain of torture inflicted on a prisoner of conscience. It does not comfort those who have lost their loved ones in floods caused by senseless deforestation in a neighboring country. Peace can only last where human rights are respected, where the people are fed and where individuals and nations are free. Tenzin Gyatso. Of course there is no veneer, the process is one of growth, and primitiveness and civilization are degrees of the same thing. If civilization has an opposite, it is war. Ursula K. Le Guin, The Left Hand of Darkness. On the planet O there has not been a war for 5,000 years, she read, and on Gethin there has never been a war. She stopped reading, to rest her eyes, and because she was trying to train herself to read slowly. There has never been a war. In her mind the words stood clear and bright, surrounded by and sinking into an infinite, dark, soft incredulity. What would that world be, a world without war? It would be the real world. Peace was the true life, the life of working and learning and bringing up children to work and learn. War, which devoured work, learning and children, was the denial of reality. But my people, she thought, know only how to deny. Born in the dark shadow of power misused, we set peace outside our world, a guiding and unattainable light. All we know to do is fight. Any peace one of us can make in our life is only a denial that the war is going on, a shadow of the shadow, a doubled unbelief. So as the cloud shadows swept over the marshes and the page of the book open on her lap, she sighed and closed her eyes. Thinking, I am a liar. Then she opened her eyes and read more about the other worlds, the far realities. Ursula K. Le Guin, 4 Ways to Forgiveness. The turmoil and dislocations confronting present-day society will not be solved until both the scientific and religious genius of the human race are fully utilized. Bahá'í International Community. I refuse to accept the cynical notion that nation after nation must spiral down a militaristic stairway into the hell of thermonuclear destruction. I believe that even amid today's mortar bursts and whining bullets there is still hope for a brighter tomorrow. I believe that wounded justice, lying prostrate on the blood-flowing streets of our nation, can be lifted from this dust of shame to reign supreme among the children of men. Martin Luther King, Jr. From his Nobel Peace Prize speech, 1964. If everyone saw himself as a citizen of the world rather than of his town, city, or country, the world would be a more peaceful, better place where success in all forms is abundant and available to all. A gift to my children. Jim Rogers. Pretending that the world's religions are the same does not make our world safer. Like all forms of ignorance, it makes our world more dangerous. What we need on this furiously religious planet is a realistic view of where religious rivals clash and where they can cooperate. Stephen R. Prothero, God is Not One, the 8 rival religions that run the world and why their differences matter. But not all Gaza residents were committed to the war. A reporter asked one of the Arabs what he most wanted. He was a taxi driver, father of 10. All he wanted was to eat and to work. What did he think of Nasser? Nasser is good, Israel is good, America is good, Britain is good, Canada is good, India is good, anything is good. Robert John Donovan, Israel's fight for survival. It was a strange feeling going into a church I did not know for a service that I did not really believe in, but once inside I couldn't help a feeling of warmth and security. Outside there were wars and road accidents and murders, striptease clubs and battered babies and frayed tempers and unhappy marriages and people contemplating suicide and bad jokes, but once in St. Martin's there was peace. Surely people go to church not to involve themselves in the world's problems but to escape from them. Michael Palin, Diaries, The Python Years, 1969 to 1979. Though all the guns be silenced, each soldier in his home, there is no peace till love comes. Till the meek may safely roam. C.P. Clapper, The Washington Poems. When an invincible weapon deals with an impenetrable defense, war is useless. The wisest decision is to cease fire and do synergy. Toba Beta, my ancestor was an ancient astronaut. The will to peace is the best answer that we can imagine to the will to war, which unfortunately seems as strong in this century as it was in the middle of the last. David Peterson, Survivors, the A-bombed trees of Hiroshima. We should love one another. This world is so full of wars and hostilities. All parties seek for allies to defeat enemies. I support peace effort towards mastermind, which has caused men hostile to each other. Toba Beta, my ancestor was an ancient astronaut. War in heaven makes war on earth. Before there could be any permanent reformation, the people must be led to feel their utter inability in themselves to render obedience to God. Ellen G. White, Patriarchs and Prophets. Accept what God freely gives and find peace. Janice Cantor, Visible Threat. Learning about freedom. 4. The very essence of human existence, knowledge, as the mind is an element that enables us to shift the winds of luck, reshape the forces of fate or destiny, and, ultimately, empower us to become free authors of our own lives, for the true art of human expression is the ability to express our dreams, thoughts, and emotions as we feel them or as they come to mind, as we search for universal equality, justice, peace, love, truth, and reality. Martin Guevara Urbina, 21st Century Dynamics of Multiculturalism, Beyond Post-Racial America. Peace is a place where your heart is free to become the more beautiful you. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. The source calls to you. Find a quiet place and listen for the voice of creation. Look upon the horizon and see the future of your new life, where you are again a natural soul living in joy and peace. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Make every effort to live in peace with all men. Layla Gifty Akita. If everyone wanted peace as much as they want a new iPhone, then there would be peace. Shira Tamir. When someone obtains peace and serenity, this shines a bright spotlight on others' own unhappiness, making their discomfort even more apparent. David W. Earl. Love is not enough. Why is it deemed justifiable and appropriate for cops/police officers to kill other cops, friendly fire, and citizens? Why do cops kill? Are they not taught to maim or slow down someone running or reaching for a weapon? If not, why not? Why do cops kill first and ask questions last? Why are police officers being military trained? What can we as citizens, taxpayers, and voters do to stop these killings and beatings of unarmed people? Why do we let this continue? How many more must die or get beat up before we realize something is wrong and needs to be changed? Will you, a friend, or a family member have to be killed or beaten by a cop before we realize that things have to change? Who's here to protect us from the cops when they decide to use excessive force, shoot multiple shells, and slash or murder us? Abiora Embry, Expanding Horizons Through Creative Expressions. Tate lays her head on my arm and we both watch her. Our daughter. I love you so much, Sam. I'm looking down at the perfection we created when it hits me. It's all worth it. It's the beautiful moments like these that make up for the ugly love. Colleen Hoover, Ugly Love. Accept the universe as the gods gave it to you. If the gods wanted to give you something else, they'd have done it. If there are other matters and other worlds, there are. Alberto Cairo, The Collected Poems of Alberto Cairo. Peaceful Ideas 12. We need more love, to supersede hatred. We need more strength, to resist our weaknesses. We need more inspiration, to lighten up our inner mind. We need more learning, to erase our ignorance. We need more wisdom, to live longer and happier. We need more truths, to suppress deceptions. We need more health, to enjoy our wealth. We need more peace, to stay in harmony with our brethren. We need more smiles, to brighten up our day. We need more heroes and not zeros. We need more change of ourselves, to change the lives of others. We need more understanding, to tackle our misunderstanding. We need more sympathy, not apathy. We need more forgiveness, not vengeance. We need more humility to be lifted up. We need more patience and not undue eagerness. We need more focus, to avoid distraction. We need more optimism, not pessimism. We need more justice, not injustice. We need more facts, not fiction. We need more education, to curb illiteracy. We need more skills, not incompetence. We need more challenges, to make attempts. We need more talents, to create the extraordinary. We need more helping hands, not stingy folks. We need more efforts, not laziness. We need more jokes, to forget our worries. We need more spirituality, not mean religion. We need more freedom, not enslavement. We need more peacemakers, not revolutionaries. With these, we create an heaven on earth. Michael Basie Johnson. I'm in no hurry. What for? The sun and moon aren't in a hurry, they're right. Hurrying is believing people can get past their legs. Or that, jumping, they can land past their shadow. No, I don't know how to hurry. Alberto Cairo, The Collected Poems of Alberto Cairo. The seeking face that does not alter when presented with peace and reason, must bask in its wearer's prideful ignorance. Justin K. McFarlane Bow. The best of your life could be the rest of your life, only if you decide to make something good out of it. Bamigboy Oluridimi. We are currently facing many hurdles, but will never lose the sight of infinite hope. Widad Akrai. There is no way to escape conflict in life and there is no way to escape peace in life. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Peace does not mean an absence of conflict, because opposition, polarity, and conflict are natural and universal laws. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. The arts are the only acceptable theater of war for peace. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. We seek love in relationships, peace and security and joy in material things. But these feelings are divine and not dependent on any outer circumstances. Vivian Amos, The Essentials of Life. We are currently facing countless hurdles and obstacles, but will never lose the sight of infinite hope. Widad Akrai. Peace is a way of constructively handling natural conflict. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Protesting is never a disturbance of the peace. Corruption, injustice, war, and intimidation are disturbances of the peace. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Love is that which gives of itself. Vivian Amos, The Essentials of Life. Any tiniest feeling, which fills you with peace and joy, can grow to the size of a mountain, when you act on it with no expectation, where and how it must take you. Enjoy the moment of harmony and know that you can trust yourself. Raphael Zernoff. Your body will heal itself, through gentle and peaceful cooperation with the inherent wisdom and intelligence within. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. People look for peaceful solutions for the world troubled by conflict. A peaceful solution can only come from a peaceful heart. Be the peaceful solution you seek. Raphael Zernoff. How the soldiers had lain, slain and forgotten, no marker for their demise, no songs to their name, not even mourners who knew them. That is the end of battle, and once a man has tasted it, how hesitant he is to lift another spoonful to his lips. R. W. Schmidt, The Lands Beyond the Moon. There is always someone who cares for us and loves us. We may not always be aware of that, yet we are very much needed and truly loved by the universe. Everything that exists is needed, because what is not needed is not created. This is the way the universe understands existence. When we let go of those people around us who are no longer compatible with our preference, which is love, peace, and joy, we open the door to many new friends who love us for who we choose to be and not for who they want us to be. Raphael Zernoff. That's peace, real peace. To come to the end, not to have to go on. Yes, peace. Agatha Christie. And then there were none. When you live from the inside out, it doesn't matter how chaotic the world around you is. You're at peace with yourself and walk with your own pace. Asejid Habtwold, the 9 cardinal building blocks, for continued success in leadership. Suddenly, Said spoke up. You told me that you read my book, The Question of Palestine. Did you read the section entitled Zionism from the Standpoint of Its Victims? If you did, you would know that I articulated what Zionism means to Jews. Though not many Arab intellectuals would be sensitive to the suffering of Jews, I understand that suffering. I even went so far as to appreciate the meaning of Israel for Jews. You see, Zionism is a great narrative filled with idealistic hopes, historical identification, and redemptive possibilities. It is a story of spectacular achievement, of bringing Western sensibility and enlightenment to a degraded and unworthy part of the East. The only problem with this narrative, the one you defend, is that it is based on illusions. You see, there were inhabitants living in Palestine. These inhabitants lived and died in Palestine. They tilled the soil, built villages, and looked upon themselves as organically connected to that land. The Arabs who lived on that land for centuries were irrelevant to the more important goal of establishing a Western-leaning civilization in the Orient. The indigenous population was a nuisance, a troublesome detail to be dealt with. R. F. Georgi, Absolution, a Palestinian-Israeli love story. Become an ambassador of peace in your own life. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Accepting conflict brings you closer to knowing peace. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. War is disgusting. Matthew held out his hands. Pax, he said, wheedlingly. Let it be peace between us. You can pour the rest of the port on my head. James' mouth curved up into a smile. It was impossible to stay angry with Matthew. It was almost impossible to get angry at Matthew. Cassandra Clare, Chain of Thorns. The greatest self is a peaceful smile, that always sees the world smiling back. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. If wars still exist, it's because we don't love peace enough. Marty Rubin. It's not the depth of your intellect that will comfort you or transform your world. Only the richness of your heart and your generosity of spirit can do that. Rashid Ogun Leru. Dogs are our link to paradise. They don't know evil or jealousy or discontent. To sit with a dog on a hillside on a glorious afternoon is to be back in Eden, where doing nothing was not boring, it was peace. Milan Kundera. Choose joyful abundance in your heart and be unbounded, free, and relaxed. Be relentless with your choice and you'll make your mark. Amy Lee Mercury. Only the brave men and women can bring peace to the world, not by practicing war but by practicing nonviolence. Amit Ray, Nonviolence, the Transforming Power. This morning I breathe iced air. And wander toward the waves. For a moment I live without care. A moment all my heart craves. Craig Froman, An Owl on the Moon, a journal from the edge of darkness. Oh, the sorrow of us all. To wander the earth in a shell. And looking to the heavens. We lay to rest in hell. The suffering of the innocent. In the midst of Jacob's well. How the miles fled between us. And that distance is still great. Though on the same shore we now sit. In temporal quietude to wait. The moon is our bright witness. It will lead us to the gate. Craig Froman, An Owl on the Moon, a journal from the edge of darkness. Forgiveness is about your peace of mind. When you don't forgive, you are the one who suffers. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Peace is not found in the sea. It is found when I dream of eternity. Craig Froman, An Owl on the Moon, a journal from the edge of darkness. A person at peace can immediately recognize a consciousness in crisis, whereas those in crisis cannot fully understand themselves or others. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. When you gaze out on a quiet, peaceful meadow, next to a still pond, under a motionless blue sky, you wonder how the noisy, busy cacophony of life could have arisen from such silent, motionless beginning. M. The meaning, S. of life, a human's guide to the biology of souls. You have to reach out to your inner abuser and make peace. You can't live your life as your own worst enemy. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. When you walk in peace, you will literally see attackers shattering themselves against your inner calm. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Peace is possible because it is today more than ever desperately necessary. Widad Akrai. Forgive for yourself and for the peace it will bring to your pain. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Thankfulness opens the door and ushers in peace and joy like a blessed breeze on a hot and humid Louisiana summer day. David P. Ingerson. Coexistence and personal peace are at the heart of global peace and harmony. Widad Akrai. Live to love and love to live. Anthony Pan. I am not posing these questions only to the world at large. I query us who own Christ as our life. Can God be pleased by the vast and increasing inequities among us? Is He not grieved by our arrogant accumulation, while Christian brothers and sisters elsewhere languish and die? Is it not obligatory upon us to see beyond the nose of our own national interest, so that justice may roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream? Is there not an obligation upon us to do justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God as we want to live in His wonderful peace? Richard J. Foster, Freedom of Simplicity, Finding Harmony in a Complex World. Let go with the intention of peace. Mistakes, obviously, show us what needs improving. Without mistakes, how would we know what we had to work on? Jasa Abbas. Rest your mind for a moment in the peace of knowing you were created and you do exist. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Get out of your own way. Learn to exist gracefully and peacefully with yourself. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Nonviolence is only for the brave men and women of the world because it requires courage to love the beauty of life, beauty of humanity and the beauty of the world. Amit Ray, Nonviolence, the Transforming Power. Be a peacemaker who values peace and takes peace everywhere you go. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. The power of relaxation is the lessening effect of stress. To achieve this we need to have the perfect platform to catalytically reach the summit of inner peace where we are at concord with ourself, our friends, and the universe. Anthony Pan. A great many people are trying to make peace, but that has already been done. God has not left it for us to do, all we have to do is enter into it. Dwight L. Moody. Peace is the friend we find in silence. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Peace for the whole world begins with a smile in your own heart. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Peace is prosperity. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Through life, I want to walk gently. I want to treat all of life, the earth and its people with reverence. I want to remove my shoes in the presence of holy ground. As much as possible, I want to walk in peace. I want to walk lightly, even joyfully, through whatever days I am given. I want to laugh easily. I want to step carefully in and out of people's lives and relationships. I don't want to tread any heavier than necessary. And throughout life, I think I would like to walk with more humility and less anger, more love and less fear. I want to walk confidently, but without arrogance. I want to walk in deep appreciation. I want to be genuinely thankful for life's extravagant, yet simple, gifts, a star-splattered night sky or a hot drink on an ice-cold day. If life is a journey, then how I make that journey is important. How I walk through life. Steve Goodyear. Your attachment to unhealthy people and bad habits, which offer you no real control, is why you're spiritually dying and living a life out of balance. Shannon L. Alder. We have become a Nazi monster in the eyes of the whole world, a nation of bullies and bastards who would rather kill than live peacefully. We are not just whores for power and oil, but killer whores with hate and fear in our hearts. We are human scum, and that is how history will judge us. No redeeming social value. Just whores. Get out of our way, or we'll kill you. Well, shit on that dumbness. George W. Bush does not speak for me or my son or my mother or my friends or the people I respect in this world. We didn't vote for these cheap, greedy little killers who speak for America today, and we will not vote for them again in 2002. Or 2004. Or ever. Who does vote for these dishonest shitheads? Who among us can be happy and proud of having all this innocent blood on our hands? Who are these swine? These flag-sucking half-wits who get fleeced and fooled by stupid little rich kids like George Bush? They are the same ones who wanted to have Muhammad Ali locked up for refusing to kill gooks. They speak for all that is cruel and stupid and vicious in the American character. They are the racists and hate-mongers among us. They are the Ku Klux Klan. I piss down the throats of these Nazis. And I am too old to worry about whether they like it or not. Hunter S. Thompson, Kingdom of Fear, Loathsome Secrets of a Star-Crossed Child in the Final Days of the American Century. All roads out of hell lead home. Shannon L. Alder. She stared at the stars like they were pillow for her mind, and in their light she could rest her heavy head. Christopher Poindexter. Transformation occurs when you open your mind to experience freedom. During the process, you transform your thoughts, which enable you to leave behind old habits and negative thinking. You are then able to conquer your fears and remove self-doubt. This irrevocable transformation allows you to be seen in a new light. It reveals your unique characteristics and truthfulness. Ameka Imaninko Sazana. When we appropriate God's great enablers, His grace and His peace, we can achieve gentleness and calmness even during hard times. K. Arthur, Walking with God in the Quiet Places, Devotions for Women. As I leave the garden, I take with me a renewed view and a quiet soul. Jessica Coop, Life Abundant, a 30-day devotional for Latter-day Saint women. You can't selectively numb your anger, any more than you can turn off all lights in a room and still expect to see the light. Shannon L. Alder. Be at peace with yourself, or you'll be at war with everyone. Raheel Farouk. There is only one side to be on, the side of life. Marty Rubin. Churches are not churches at all. They are free mental health hospitals filled with wounded souls in various stages of healing, that are being treated by angels that got their credentials from the University of Hard Knocks. Shannon L. Alder. In your occupations, try to possess your soul in peace. It is not a good plan to be in haste to perform any action that it may be the sooner over. On the contrary, you should accustom yourself to do whatever you have to do with tranquility, in order that you may retain the possession of yourself and of settled peace. Madame Guyon. A good leader promotes peace, not war. A good leader is for the people, not for himself. A good leader does not watch his people suffer. Godfrey Orating. Rip, to those that are no longer here in body, for they give our minds a lesson in eternity. C. Barnett 2. When it comes to peace, we need to facilitate peacemakers' personal engagement and their genuine desire to bridge the gap between advocacy knowledge and skills necessary to differentiate between theory and practice in the field of conflict management. Widad Akrai. It is the garden of peace you seek, but it is not a tangible place that exists in the world, it is within. Go there, within. Bryant McGill, Simple Reminders, Inspiration for Living Your Best Life. Too much aggression and work will move what you desire further away. Bryant McGill. I felt the kind of peace you feel when you come in from a hot afternoon and pour cold water over your feet. Sachin Kundakar, Cobalt Blue. Peace does not mean no war. Peace means love. Sameh El Said. Meditation, said his teacher, hasn't got a damn thing to do with anything, cause all it has to do with is nothing. Nothingness. Okay? It doesn't develop the mind, it dissolves the mind. Self-improvement? Forget it, baby. It erases the self. Throws the ego out on its big brittle ass. What good is it? Good for nothing. Excellent for nothing. Yes, Lord, but when you get down to nothing, you get down to ultimate reality. It's then and exactly then that you're sensing the true nature of the universe, you're linked up with the absolute, sun, and unless you're content with blowing smoke up your butt all your life, that there's the only place to be. Tom Robbins, Fierce Invalids Home from Hot Climates. Let your hair loose and enjoy the breeze. Go out into the woods and sit under trees. Do whatever it takes and set your mind at ease. Innocent Mwat Activism-A, Reality Check, a collection of poems. Peace among us, war to the tyrants. Eugene Pottier. Keep close to nature's heart and break clear away once in a while and climb a mountain or spend a week in the woods. Wash your spirit clean. John Muir. The most valuable possession you can own is an open heart, the most powerful weapon you can be is an instrument of peace. Carlos Santana. The shortest path to peace is listening to understand, empathy and a willingness to compromise to alleviate suffering. Jeffrey A. White. Without basic human values guiding us, we become morally bankrupt. Without love as our purpose, we become empty. Without understanding of both of these, we become lost. Milan Hollister, Back to the Guide, 5 Core Values Revitalized. Some people can't be in your life because they don't have the power to help you improve it. That doesn't mean you don't wish them well, it just means that you are on chapter 10 of your life, when they are on chapter 5. Maybe, it is just enough to meet at the crossroads in life and agree to take separate paths, then with a Cheshire grin you both look back and shout, beat you to the top of the mountain, followed by the funnest sprint of both of your lives. Shannon L. Alder. A balanced life isn't to do as we please, but to learn to do what is right. A person that is truly free in life doesn't try to balance the good and evil inside him. He fearlessly fights the war between his heart and mind, by choosing one path of standards to live by that will end suffering for himself and others. Shannon L. Alder. Words can express true feelings, true emotions, and wisdom. It is up to you to use them wisely. Choose your words carefully and express them peacefully. Israel Moore-Ivor, The Great Handbook of Quotes. I put a hand up to cup his cheek, warm and lightly stubbled. I didn't fool myself that this was paradise or even a refuge from the war. Wars tended not to stay in one place but moved around, much in the manner of cyclones, and even more destructive where they touched down. But for however long it lasted, this was home and now was peace. Diana Gabaldon, written in my own heart's blood. Peaceful Ideas 13. Let us change a letter. From the word evil. Make it evil. As long as Israel remains so. Let us protect the letter P. For prayers. For Palestine. For peace. Munya Khan. As architect of your reality, you are empowered to create it as you choose. Amy Lee Mercury, The Spiritual Girl's Guide to Dating, your enlightened path to love, sex, and soul mates. Wake up with a purpose and make every effort to succeed. Many people spend their lives just going through the motions. They are satisfied with their daily routines or habitual lifestyles. Don't be complacent with those activities. Challenge yourself to be better, do greater things. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. You can never have for yourself someone who isn't on good terms with himself. Pascal Mercier, Night Train to Lisbon. If you can't pray for the peace your church, promote the Christian doctrines, prepare for every good work and provide for the expansion of the church, you are just like the pews, table and chairs, in the chapel. Israel Moore-Ivor, The Great Handbook of Quotes. Lack of accountability weakens the environmental and health rights of citizens, it damages peace-building and reconciliation initiatives, impedes the implementation of global health policies, leads to the loss of ecosystems and biodiversity, and weakens democracy, justice, human rights, and international security. Widad Akrai. If I can change the world at least 1% to peace, truth, and altruistic loving-kindness through my writing, my life will not have been meaningless and lost to the nothingness of time. Mark F. Khalida, my future mother. Disappointment and depression are terrorists that kidnap people's original peace for no good reason. The Holy Spirit of God is a dependable army to drive them away. May you be free from being disappointed and depressed. May you have and share peace as long as you live. Israel Mor Iver, The Great Handbook of Quotes. Veterans scream in their dreams, reliving nightmares so that we can sleep peacefully. Kamil Ali, Profound Verre Tales. Across the world, the lack of accountability for the harm to the environment and public health caused by conflict and military activities undermines global efforts to help fragile countries recover from armed conflicts. Widad Akrai. Toxic remnants of war represent a profound challenge for the protection of public health and the restoration of the environment in countries affected by conflict. Widad Akrai. Home is where the heart is. That's what they always say. But where does home begin, if you have lost your way? Do you turn to family or neighbors you don't know? Your heart may wander far and wide until you learn to grow. You go outside and look around to see what you can see. From little birds to big tall trees you realize beauty is free. Peace Gypsy, Souls Deep, from a professional dreamer. In recent years, academics, policymakers, and experts have raised the question of the applicability of peacetime environmental law in times of armed conflict. Widad Akrai. When it all comes crashing down, try to understand your meanings. No one said it would be easy. This living, it ain't easy, oh. You were sewn together with a tapestry of molecules. A billion baby galaxies. And wide open spaces. And everything you need is here. Everything you fear is here. And it's holding you up. It just keeps holding you up. When you came up from the ground. From a million little pieces. You're a pretty human being. Cloud Cult. The sun was beginning to set and the water was sparkling in the low light as the onshore breeze that had built up through the heat of the day rippled across the reflective surface, breaking it into a million diamonds of yellow-white light. Emma Bamford, Casting Off, How a City Girl Found Happiness on the High Seas. All the evil in the world comes from us bothering with each other. Wanting to do good, wanting to do evil. Our soul and the sky and the earth are enough for us. To want more is to lose this and be unhappy. Alberto Cairo, The Keeper of Sheep. Why is it that we are so busy with the future? It is not our province, and is there not a criminal interference with him to whom it belongs, in our feverish, anxious attempts to dispose of it and in filling it up with shadows of good and evil shaped by our own wild imaginations? To do God's will as fast as it is made known to us, to inquire hourly I had almost said each moment what he requires of us and to leave ourselves, our friends and every interest at his control, with the cheerful trust that the path which he marks out leads to our perfection and to himself. This is at once our duty and happiness, and why will we not walk in the plain, simple way? William Ellery Channing. For one who is chosen to be among all the living, there is hope. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. While there is breath, there is hope. Even in hopeless situations, there is hope that the situation changes for the better. Gina Burgess, Refreshment in Refuge. Moonlight through high branches. All the poets say it's more than moonlight through high branches. But for me, who don't know what I think, what moonlight through high branches is, besides being moonlight through high branches, is being nothing else but moonlight through high branches. Alberto Cairo, The Keeper of Sheep. Every time our government chooses to use military force to bring about change in the world, it once again teaches our children the myth of redemptive violence, the myth that violence can be an instrument for good. Shane Claiborne, The Irresistible Revolution, Living as an Ordinary Radical. Again, Sid had that feeling, the past as an echo, repeating itself as it faded. The poor had longed for Jubilee to save them from the powerful, and now the one-time patrons longed for the machine to do the same. Every revolution believes it can return something that had been lost, but nothing is ever the same. The only thing that endures are people. Sid saw that clearly now, and perhaps so too did Marie. You could serve a revolution, an idea that ended up an echo of itself, or you could serve people, with their maddening contradictions. You couldn't serve both. You had to choose. Alex London, Guardian. When we sit in meditation, we are closer than usual to the world as it is. By simply bringing body, breath, and mind together in the present moment, we touch Buddha, we touch reality, and we are in the world as it is. Most people's experience in this state is peaceful and rejuvenating. Andrew First, Western Lights, a collection of short essays on Buddhism. When we begin enacting the new world, the nations will follow. Nations will not lead us to peace, it is people who will lead the nation to peace as they begin to humanize the nations. Shane Claiborne, The Irresistible Revolution, Living as an Ordinary Radical. Also at times, on the surface of streams, water, bubbles form, and grow and burst, and have no meaning at all, except that they're water, bubbles, growing and bursting. Alberto Cairo, The Keeper of Sheep. Blessed be the sun on other lands, which makes all men my brothers. Because every man, one moment in the day, looks at it like me. And in this pure moment, all clean and tender, they go back tearfully, with a sigh they barely feel, to the true and primitive man, who saw the sun rise and didn't worship it yet. Because that's natural, more natural than worshipping gold and God, and art and morality. Alberto Cairo, The Keeper of Sheep. Maybe, it is just enough to believe with a positive heart that people didn't let you down. It could be just this: they couldn't give you the compassion you really wanted based on where their heart is right now. Maybe, not now, but years later they will catch the memory of you in a quiet moment. There on that Sunday morning, a light will shine through the fog of lies, misunderstanding and frustration they built inside their angry mind about your true character. And, when it does, the shadows will be casted out to reveal a scared and hurt little boy or girl that just wanted to be loved, but went about it all wrong. Maybe, on that day, the whisper of their gratitude for your love will find its way back to your heart. And when that day comes, you will find yourself smiling all day long and not know why. Shannon L. Alder. Romantic waves beat deep in my chest of playful, untouchable thoughts of you. As dreams are the threads I weave with care, the path for you to me. The sky above lagoon with lovely lights, soft music, slow dancing. You are the turquoise sea and I, an azure sky. The sweet caressing story of the day. Much steals men's eyes and women's souls amazeth. You feel me like I feel you. The soothing voice with laughter mine sprinkle all over you, comforting through the lonely nights when we are the world apart. Eternity within your reach. You search your heart when I am away. It's here, it's with me. Your breath coincides with the rhythm of mine. So breathe and let your soul paint vision within. I am with you and hold you close. With peaceful lullaby. Oksana Rus. At heart, we're all violent raging wolves, but in our actions we can be pacifists. Polly Horvath, Everything on a Waffle. In the end both people realized something so utterly simple and yet horrifyingly distant: by removing the otherness from their respective identification, they can embrace a land that animates their historical sense of purpose and direction. They can embrace fate by embracing each other as joint caretakers of a historical location that witnessed rivers of blood and the silent weeping of those who dream of a new Jerusalem. R. F. Georgi, Absolution, a Palestinian-Israeli love story. God wanted to make heaven, and the earth is that heaven. Nowhere in the universe there is so much love, life, beauty, and peace. Enjoy your stay with the fellow beings. Amit Ray, Nonviolence, the Transforming Power. There are different ways to take over the world. But there is only one way to take over the universe, and that's through meditation. Aishwarya Shiva Parikh. He liked bookstores and libraries too. They had a sacred, peaceful hush, like graveyards without the shadow of death. Garrett Lee, Only Love. As you travel along the roads in life, there is a certain kind of peace that comes with knowing you're on the right path. And when you are faced with adversity, it challenges you but makes you stronger. The road is not always an easy route. Nevertheless, you must not allow your fears to keep you from reaching the destination. Amaikankosasana, Sweet Destiny. The distant sea, lapping the sandy shore with measured sound, the nearer cries of the donkey boys, the unusual scenes moving before her like pictures, which she cared not in her laziness to have fully explained before they passed away, the stroll down to the beach to breathe the sea air, soft and warm on the sandy shore even at the end of November, the great long misty sea line touching the tender-colored sky, the white sail of a distant boat turning silver in some pale sunbeam. It seemed as if she could dream her life away in such luxury of pensiveness, in which she made her present all in all, from not daring to think of the past, or wishing to contemplate the future. Elizabeth Gaskell, North and South. We don't yet know, above all, what the world might be like if children were to grow up without being subjected to humiliation, if parents would respect them and take them seriously as people. Alice Miller. When you speak, be sure of what you are speaking. Don't be rambling full of words that have no integrity or truth. Nobody wants to confide in you when they doubt what you say. If you are filled with untruths, those characteristics make it hard for anyone to believe in you. Amaikankosasana, Sweet Destiny. When the mind is distressed, the flow of inspiration is distorted, intellectual faculties affected, and unexpected vacuum appeared. Bamigboyaluridimi. The moment that you give gratitude is the moment that you find happiness. The moment that you lose gratitude, your happiness will vanish and slip through your fingers. Rashid Ogun Leru. Finally we came over a rise and I saw the Caribbean. My first feeling was a wild desire to drive a stake in the sand and claim the place for myself. The beach was white as salt and cut off from the world by a ring of steep hills that faced the sea. We were on the edge of a large bay and the water was that clear, turquoise color that you get with a white sand bottom. I had never seen such a place. I wanted to take off all my clothes and never wear them again. Hunter S. Thompson, The Rum Diary. Nobody is perfect. We all want to be loved just like anyone else. It is not wrong to keep faith on someone whose life is not according to our standards. The faith we hold on them is called loving by example. The love we give can be in different forms. Yours might be a distant one, mine might be a close one. Together, we still keep the love. Gloria D. Gonsalves. Being Jewish did not compromise the humanitarian and universalist ideals of my close relatives who, having experienced persecution close hand, were more concerned with bringing about peace, justice, and equality in the world than in trying to cut out a niche where they could continue an insular Jewish fantasy. Daniel Waterman, Entheogens, Society and Law. The contention that a standing army and navy is the best security of peace is about as logical as the claim that the most peaceful citizen is he who goes about heavily armed. The experience of everyday life fully proves that the armed individual is invariably anxious to try his strength. The same is historically true of governments. Really peaceful countries do not waste life and energy in war preparations, with the result that peace is maintained. Emma Goldman. I don't know whether war is an interlude during peace, or peace an interlude during war. Georges Clemenceau. I am bundled in the warmth of the price and the purchase and its solid completion, as in royal robes. Marvelous these royal robes. These robes are authority that can decree that trouble, sin of my heart, and the deceptive obstruction of will and reasoning be sent to banishment. Quinisia Johnson, Growth in Expression, Modern Christian Poems. Palestinians and Israelis were connected by a fatalistic dialectic, whose movement was punctuated by violence and directed towards an apocalyptic conclusion. One might argue that this dialectic enveloped a land, mythical and actual, spiritual yet earthbound, ancient yet very much poised towards unfolding actualities. R. F. Georgi, Absolution, a Palestinian-Israeli love story. Peace is not determined by the signage of treaties or the wishes of leaders. Peace is not a discrete event, rather it is a renewable proposition, filled with affirmations designed to mitigate against the collective distrust of two people who knew little beyond hatred, suspicion, blame and counter-blame, intellectual gamesmanship, fear, paranoia, historical necessity, retribution, and a host of other deeply ingrained emotional projections that are constantly lurking beneath the surface. R. F. Georgi, Absolution, a Palestinian-Israeli love story. When you discover there's no peace without him, you'll find God there waiting for you. Norma Gale, Land of My Dreams. Don't just leave your footprints in the sand only to be washed away as the ocean waves come crashing to the shore. You want to impact the lives of others in such a way that you'll be remembered forever. You want to instill values and wisdom in the hearts and minds of others that will never be forgotten, so they may teach their children to carry on from generation to generation. Amakunkosazana, Sweet Destiny. Never waste time holding grudges for people who have wronged you. Time waits for no one. Apologize when you are wrong. Express your love when you should. Forgive the ones who wronged you. And appreciate the one who makes efforts to see you smile. Namdhandazot Tsembani. If you were blessed to wake up this morning, remember that you have indeed won the grand universal lottery, you have been given yet another chance at life. Your big question is, what will you do with your winnings today? The Hidden Path. Inchen Mia John. One day when God fell asleep, and the Holy Ghost went off flying, he got into a box of miracles and stole 3. With the first he made it so that no one would know he had run away. With the second he made himself a human boy forever. With the third he created a Christ eternally crucified, and left him nailed to the cross that there is in heaven, where he's used as a model for other crosses. Then he ran away to the sun, and came down on the first ray he caught. Alberto Cairo, the keeper of sheep. That lady has a piano. It's nice, but it's not the running of rivers, or the murmuring trees make. Who needs a piano? It's better to have ears, and love nature. Alberto Cairo, the keeper of sheep. Our duty is wakefulness, the fundamental condition of life itself. The unseen, the unheard, the untouchable is what weaves the fabric of our seeable universe together. Robin Craig Clarke, The Garden. The Anatomy of Conflict. If there is no communication, then there is no caring. If there is no caring, then there is no understanding. If there is no understanding, then there is no compassion. If there is no compassion, then there is no empathy. If there is no empathy, then there is no forgiveness. If there is no forgiveness, then there is no kindness. If there is no kindness, then there is no honesty. If there is no honesty, then there is no love. If there is no love, then God doesn't reside there. If God doesn't reside there, then there is no peace. If there is no peace, then there is no happiness. If there is no happiness, then there is conflict because there is no communication. Shannon L. Alder. If you judge people, you have no time to love them. Mother Teresa. I've learned that solitude is sometimes a path that leads to peace. Carlos Ruiz Zafón, The Watcher in the Shadows. After working for years, in the end days, people realize it's peace for what they have worked for all those years by losing the peace. Gopi Chand Lagadapati. Peaceful Ideas 14. My friend, be careful what labels you take as truth in your life. It doesn't matter who speaks negative labels over your life, don't give them that power over you. It only matters what you take as truth in your life. You are a magnificent, unique masterpiece of the universe. Go forward and be great, strong, and powerful. The Hidden Path. Inchen Mia John. Don't let anyone sell you on the idea that anything, apart from the Lord Himself, is more important than your marriage. God means for your life and your marriage to be filled with passion and purpose. Elizabeth George. You are the magic code that unlocks your happiness. Amy Lee Mercury, The Spiritual Girl's Guide to Dating, Your Enlightened Path to Love, Sex, and Soul Mates. My belief is when God created you, He put inside you all the tools you needed to have a full and purposeful life. Sometimes we forget how many fantastic gifts lay inside, and it takes very trying and tough situations to have them present themselves. When they do present themselves, it is almost as if long-lost friends that we long to see have come home. The Hidden Path. Inchin Mia John. Smile is not just a word. It means a lot: love, trust, warmth, tenderness, etc. In fact, it means world. So smile always. That means, you are giving a world to someone. Muhammad Imran Hassan. The morning brought more peace if it did not entirely dissipate fear. Elizabeth Gaskell, Sylvia's Lovers. Sometimes we go along, thinking, ah, this is it. This is what true peace feels like. Then, in a moment of grace, something shifts in our hearts. And in awestruck wonder, we whisper, oh my, I just didn't know there could more. Kate Mullane Robertson. We don't necessarily need to know each other's name, age, profession, drug of choice, childhood trauma, or recent tragedy to understand what pain feels like and offer comfort. We are strangers drawn together by a shared desire for lasting peace. Martam Rotak, Miracle in Progress, a handbook for holistic recovery. How to enforce peace. Not by reason, certainly, nor by education. If a man could not look at the fact of peace and the fact of war and choose the former in preference to the latter, what additional argument could persuade him? What could be more eloquent as a condemnation of war than war itself? Isaac Asimov, The Currents of Space. If a transaction in progress appeared threatened with failure, if a shipment of goods seemed to have gone astray, or if a debtor appeared unable to repay his debt, Kamaswamy was never able to persuade Siddhartha that it was useful to speak words of worry or of anger, to have a wrinkled brow, or to sleep poorly. Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha. I have never been sad because my losses are my profits. Praveen K.C. With commitment and vision, it is possible to build a bridge between potential partners and communities whose work is of relevance to peace-building initiatives. Widad Akrai. Any act against the Constitution must be declared to be but void. But atomic acts against humanity are the strength to be but tried. The future of any of the countries does lie way above its people. And the future of humanity on numerous bombs so ample. Munindra Misra, Eddies of Life. Hatred goes not by hatred. Violence not by violence. Disappear hatred and violence. By love, understanding, non-violence. Munindra Misra, Eddies of Life. With compassion and renunciation walking. With wants and desires ever shedding. With love within one's heart flowing. Peace and divinity shall never be wanting. Munindra Misra, Eddies of Life. Peace requires the provision of a platform for discussion and the exchange of information on matters and activities relevant to the prevention of armed violence. Widad Akrai. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. The Dalai Lama. The works must be conceived with fire in the soul but executed with clinical coolness. Joan Miro. Come on, I said a third time, to the approaching darkness, to the figures that beckoned from within it, to the peace that comes at last to every dead thing. John Connolly, The Wolf in Winter. We cannot bring peace in our city, when there is no peace in our homes. M.F. Munzager, Love, Hatred, and Madness. Our lives can be compared to beautiful streams, which are destined to flow, grow in majesty to create wonderful features such as cascading waterfalls and give nourishment and life to those in its path. The Hidden Path. Inchin Mia John. Our human inventions astound. Our technological advancements are staggering. And we have amassed great wealth. But, it is only through love that hearts are transformed. Respect is fostered and lasting peace achieved. Kate Mullane Robertson. Real peace is not only the absence of war but the presence of God. Asunsakan Adewale. You rest now. Rest for longer than you are used to resting. Make a stillness around you, a field of peace. Your best work, the best time of your life will grow out of this peace. Peter Heller, the painter. God built lighthouses to see people through storms. Then he built storms to remind people to find lighthouses. Shannon L. Alder. No matter what justification you have for your feelings, you cannot wish harmful things on others. Gloria D. Gonsalves. Never allow anyone to take advantage of you in no shape, form or fashion. People get into relationships for different reasons. And, many are often looking for something in return, and it mostly relates to security. Don't unite with any person who only wants to use your possessions and wealth to elevate themselves to the next level. You ought to value yourself much more than that. Each person in a relationship should be able to contribute wholly and completely. Ameka Imani Nkosazana. When religious people take the stance that they don't owe anyone that is hurting closure or answers, then God is not winning. Conflict continues because of lack of communication, fear, and indifference. Shannon L. Alder. Grace will meet you in the valley, and her song will carry you home on the wind to another sky filled with ethereal beauty unfolding and love everlasting. Shannon L. Alder. You see the bird and you see its flight. You cannot see through its eyes. Therefore, you don't know its plight. Ameka Nkosazana, Sweet Destiny. Good leaders come together to solve problems in order to make a peaceful coexistence, but just a single soul can become the leathery meat in the soup. Michael Basie Johnson. Life has always been about God winning. He will send you a miracle that will take you through the conflict in your life into a better situation that will create the most peace in the world if you only believe. Shannon L. Alder. Hope combined with action is the only thing that will bring you contentment. Shannon L. Alder. He who is absolutely right is absolutely wrong. Never chase a person, because if they want to be in your life, they will. It amazes me how people go out their way for someone who does nothing for them, doesn't encourage or support their efforts. Stop seeking attention from people who don't give you the time of day. Value your time, comfort your spirit, have peace of mind. There are people who love you and care about you. Give your smiles to them, reciprocate. Ameka Imani Nkosazana. Sometimes the simplest solution out of conflict is becoming someone's friend, instead of saying goodbye forever. Shannon L. Alder. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Jimi Hendrix. Do not allow another person to set you back. Continue moving forward, not backwards. When someone pulls you back, be like the arrow to a bow and spring forth greater than ever. And, what they thought would be your disadvantage, you turn it into your advantage. Ameka Imani Nkosazana. Even if I knew that tomorrow the world would go to pieces, I would still plant my apple tree. Martin Luther King Jr. It is essential to know that to be a happy person, happy family, happy society, it is very crucial to have a good heart, that is very crucial. World peace must develop from inner peace. Peace is not just the absence of violence but the manifestation of human compassion. Dalai Lama. Awkward silences rule the world. People are so terrified of awkward silences that they will literally go to war rather than face an awkward silence. Stefan Molyneux. Man has two common problems with God, the one is that there is evil in the world, the other is that free will is limited. The one, he is charging that the world is too evil, the other is that it is not evil enough. Chris Jamie. Spread love not hate, so that we can live and die in peace. If you have a big idea or plan that you desire to execute, don't depend solely on others to appreciate your efforts. You must have the ability to encourage yourself. At times seeking encouragement from others can lead to disappointment, which sometimes leads you to neglect your obligation. Never build your hopes and dreams based primarily on the accolades from others. You may discover a rude awakening. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. What I would like to leave behind is a simple prayer that each of you may find what I have found: God's special gift to us all, the gift of peace. When we are at peace, we find the freedom to be most fully who we are, even in the worst of times. We let go of what is non-essential and embrace what is essential. We empty ourselves so that God may more fully work within us. And we become instruments in the hands of the Lord. Joseph Bernardine, The Gift of Peace. I regretted my human form briefly. It would be so much easier to drag and rope information into the brain as neatly as one dragged and dropped information on the computer. Perhaps I was suffering from a touch of information sickness. If I could weed out my thoughts. There was one reliable cure I've found: a bit of the hair of the dog release in reading. Not a manual, something with a narrative, a chute built by a writer and waxed until the reader fell into it and skittered right to the end without stopping. The relief of being in someone else's hands. Yes, exactly, I needed to be under a spell. It didn't matter who I was, or what I did, or where I paid taxes, or how long I stayed. I'm sure it didn't matter if the book had RFID tags or a checkout card with a ladder of scrawled names, though tags were neat. I knew the librarians would help me figure out anything I needed to know later. I was under the librarians' protection. Civil servants and servants of civility, they had my back. They would be whatever they needed to be that day: information professionals, teachers, police, community organizers, computer technicians, historians, confidants, clerks, social workers, storytellers, or in this case, guardians of my peace. They were the authors of this opportunity diversion from the economy and distraction from snow, protectors of the bubble of concentration I'd found in the maddening world. And I knew they wouldn't disturb me until closing time. Marilyn Johnson, this book is overdue: How Librarians and Librarians Can Save Us All. 90% of the art of living consists of getting on with people you can't stand. Samuel Goldwyn. No matter how hard you try, there are times when things just don't go as planned. And, it's not because you are doing something wrong. It is because the thing you are after is not designed for you. It is not a part of your destiny. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. When we have done our best, we should wait the result in peace. John Lubbock, The Pleasures of Life. Our heart is wide enough to embrace the world and hands are long enough to encompass the world. Amit Ray, Nonviolence, The Transforming Power. Separate yourself from those who hinder your vision. Make a choice to walk away from the trap set to ensnare you. Realize when someone is pulling you backwards every time you take a step forward. Separate from them and the result of your action will be a life of success. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. We can block our blessings with one thought, one decision. Sometimes your blessing may require certain actions on your behalf. You asked for the job? Now, you must get dressed and go to the interview and prove yourself worthy of the position. When you move, you activate your faith. And, suddenly everything falls into place. Faith without works is dead. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. The more you manifest a servant's heart in all you do, the more of an impact you'll have on people's lives. Jim George, 1 Minute Insights for Men. Your perception of a person, place, or thing may not be accurate. Just because it looks good does not mean it is good, and vice versa. Always be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention to the people, places, and things around you. Don't allow your misperception to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Ameka Imaningo Sazana. Peace is letting it be. Letting life flow, letting emotions flow through you. Kamal Ravi Kant, Live Your Truth. Nations rise and fall, flourish and decay, by what they believe in and by what their culture stands for. Ifeanyi Enoch Onyoha. Blessed are the peacemakers. Build are the warmongers, and then you shall have peace. Stefan Molyneux. You become a hypocrite when you can't freely be at peace with others, but you can carry green palm leaves to church to commemorate Palm Sunday. Throw those palm leaves somewhere, and lay your life down for someone to walk on and get to the destined land. Israel Moreover, The Great Handbook of Quotes. We're comfortable. He knows I love him. He can see it in my eyes, like I can in his. Not everything needs to be as you imagine. Passion can be a calm meadow just as much as a hurricane. Marilyn Gray, Bloom. Reap your harvest. Benefits: you have been sowing seeds on good soil. Working hard, your garden is overflowing abundantly. Successful: now is the time for you to fill your basket with the fruits of your labor. Savings: prepare your soil for new seeds. Investments. Ameka imani ngosazana. It is not the quantity of your thoughts but the quality of your thoughts that make the difference. Thoughts can either be productive or a hindrance. But, when we focus our attention on faithfulness and truthfulness, the restoration process begins. Ameka imani ngosazana. Words of war, on a piece of paper. Where peace is torn off, crumbled and toss in the waste basket. Anthony Lencioni. Everyone is beautiful and talented in their own special way. Some people can sing, dance, play instruments, teach and more. You may not be in the Hall of Fame, but you possess the ability to inspire others. Recognize your talents and continue to be creative. Share your beautiful gifts with the world. Ameka imani ngosazana. When you do great things, expect greater things. None of your works are done in vain. You will achieve what you set forth to accomplish. Ameka imani ngosazana. The masses of flies over the dirt do not state their unity, it is the dirt that brings them together. Mf. Munzager, love, hatred, and madness. Sometimes things will not go as planned, but don't lose hope. Stay focused on whatever you are trying to accomplish. There will be a breakthrough soon. Understand that all things take time. You may not be there yet, but you're on the right path towards success. Ameka imani ngosazana. There is nothing wrong with falling in love. Don't trip and bump your head only to realize you're experiencing infatuation. Ameka imani ngosazana. Peace of mind comes with truth. Lying requires you to tell different lies over and over again. Tell the truth. Create beautiful memories. Ameka imani ngosazana. Our goals can only be achieved with a society that respects and equally protects the rights of every human being, old and young, rich and poor, regardless of gender, color, race, or creed. We must reject the initiation of violence by individuals or government as morally repugnant. Ron Paul, End the Fed. No matter what your situation, God is always ready to listen. Jim George, 1 Minute Insights for Men. As soon as he had left the room and walked into the air, he knew that he would never return, and for the first time his fears lifted. It was a spring morning, and when he walked into Severndale Park he felt the breeze bringing back memories of a much earlier life, and he was at peace. He sat beneath a tree and looked up at its leaves in amazement where once he might have gazed at them and sensed there only the confusion of his own thoughts. Now each leaf was so clear and distinct that he could see the lightly colored veins which carried moisture and life. And he looked down at his own hand, which seemed translucent beside the bright grass. His head no longer ached, and as he lay upon the earth he could feel its warmth beneath him. Peter Ackroyd, Hawksmoor. That's peace. Real peace. To come to the end. Not to have to go on. Yes, peace. Agatha Christie. And then there were none. Women's status in society has become the standard by which humanity's progress toward civility and peace can be measured. Architects of peace, visions of hope in words and images. For us to progress, we must be community in liberty, equality, and fraternity. Ifanyi Enoch Onyoha. Your perception of a person, place, or thing may not be accurate. Just because it looks good does not mean it is good, and vice versa. Always be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention to the people, places, and things around you. Don't allow your misperception to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Ameka imaninko sazana. When God opens a new page in your life, make photocopies of it, read it, and share it with other people. Some may hear it when you read it, others may tear it when you share it. Israel Moreover, the Great Handbook of Quotes. Do you really not know of the magnificence of war, or how worthless peace is? Peace only leads mankind to depravity. What is so good about it? It is only for war that a human forges and improves his body. Indeed, humanity creates weapons to fight each other, which also spurs the growth of science. War itself is a necessity to mankind. Go Nagai, Shin Devilman. Never give a person a piece of your mind when all you really wanted to do was give them a piece of your heart. Shannon L. Alder. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than words. Just because it is peaceful, it doesn't mean it is still and void, as a few may think. It is insightful, powerful, and full of meaning. It is when one can't lie to oneself. You have to learn to listen to what she is not saying. Listen to her silence. And listen to yours, too. Christian Assyria, trust, betrayed. History has shown us time and time again that you don't have to know someone to love them with all your heart. Shannon L. Alder. Eastward and westward storms are breaking, great, ugly whirlwinds of hatred and blood and cruelty. I will not believe them inevitable. W. E. V. Dubois, The Wisdom of W. E. V. Dubois.